SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy delays along sections of the N3 this morning. A truck crash at Van Riene's Pass. One lane has been open on the Durban-bound side. The northbound remains completely closed. So lengthy queues, big volumes of trucks stuck over Van Riene's in both directions. The other big one is the N3 Durban-bound, closed at Town Hill. Now there's nothing getting through at this stage. There's a long backlog of trucks and some vehicles stuck between Town Hill closure and right back to sort of almost the Hilton area. If you are driving from Howick side down into Durban, you'll be taken off at Merivale or Hilton or Sadara, or maybe you might be able to sort of sneak off at Peter Brown, although that option probably blocked by trucks, I would think. So diversions for light vehicles and stacking for heavies down to Pietermaritzburg this morning. So very enormous backlog of truck traffic's caught in that particular one. Durban and KZN, it remains wet. There is some flooding about as well. I know the Southern Freeway's got some flooding at Congella, Esplanade coming off the freeway into central Durban, also under some water as well. So take it easy across the KZN and anywhere else it might be raining. And Cape Town, heavy sand ingress along Baden-Powell this morning at Monwabisi and also at Coastal Park. I would think it's fairly safe to assume that at some point Baden-Powell will be closed to traffic with some diversions around that sand patch. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, cricket action, heartbreak for the Proteas women as New Zealand are crowned the ICC T20 World Cup winners, and soccer to look forward to as Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns are in a blockbuster clash, and this after the Carling Knockout Cup draw. We'll bring you all this and more at around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Monday, the 21st of October 2024 has dawned. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your Morning Brief. So how was the weekend? What a weekend it was. It was a weekend of mixed emotions. To use the expression of Judith Sepuma, we cried, we smiled and we danced. There was much to be elated about, but there was also equally a lot to be quite distressed about and be unhappy about. The funerals of the former finance minister and Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni, as well as the senior pastor the former senior pastor of Rhema Bible Church, Pastor Ray Macaulay, who was a preacher for many, many decades. All of those funerals held over the weekend. So that was one of those that people were watching over the weekend and just watching them get a fitting tribute for their contribution to South Africa. But at the same time, it was also a deadly weekend in the Eastern Cape once again. Yet another one of those. I mean, it just seems like every other day we're talking about mass killings, a mass shooting, and of late that has been happening a lot in the Eastern Cape, but that's not to say that it's confined to the Eastern Cape. I've made my views known on this and the issue of the need for a concerted effort to drive down crime, a war on crime. I will not repeat that. But there were 3 men who were killed while a woman sustained gunshot wounds following a deadly shooting in Willowvale in the Eastern Cape. That happened on Saturday. It was just hot off the heels of another shooting that happened just hours before after a family of 5 members were murdered in Biti near Mthatha, also in the Eastern Cape. That incident happening on Friday. So something is happening there. There's a war going on. Is our side fighting back? There's a war going on. Is our side fighting back and fighting back decisively and vigorously? That is the question for me. It was also a huge sporting weekend, was it not? There was a lot that happened. It was tinged with both disappointment and elation, as I was saying earlier on. And for me personally, right, the Proteas women, as Zaikan was telling you in her headlines, and she will report extensively on that, stumbling at the final hurdle in the T20 World Cup final against New Zealand, and that was in Dubai. And even the captain, Laura Wolford, and the girls quite disappointed with that performance. But I tell tell you what, we couldn't be prouder. We couldn't be prouder of your showing, Proteas, there. You're showing throughout the tournament. And I have no qualms in giving you a proudly South African salute for the effort that you put up throughout the tournament. One game doesn't define the performance of the team throughout the tournament. Chelsea, and that's for me, a disaster personally, subdued at Anfield. Let's move on. Let's keep it moving. We have lots to cover. And of course, I saw the usual banter, something about a team called Magesi FC, and one of the Soweto Giants. I also don't want to open wounds there, but Magesi to me sounds something like that has electricity in it. I don't know. Maybe you were shocked by it all. But, you know, I also want to mention this tour de force of a performance that was put up by Glenrose Xaba at the Cape Town Marathon over the weekend, yesterday actually. It was simply breathtaking. I mean, she smashed the record for that marathon, and also set a new national record of 2 hours, 22 minutes and 22 seconds. She smashed the record that had been held by Gerda Steyn by about 1 minute and 40 seconds. It was just exhilarating. But coming up on the show today, we'll be talking a bit about the Matric results. Today, the Matric exams, rather. Today marks the beginning of the final exams for the Matric class of 2024. The Free State province, you will know, consistently performs among the top provinces in producing the results. So they received the highest pass rate in 2023 and will certainly be hoping to keep that showing, if not improve upon it. We'll focus on the country's top performing province, the Free State, and their preparations. The MEC, Dr. Julia Mabuya, is scheduled to speak to us in this hour, in fact, at about 20 to 7 a.m. Of course, we'll also talk about the South African Communist Party is once again saying that it will re-evaluate its role as an alliance partner of the African National Congress, and they are setting the 2026 local government elections as that milestone at which they will do that re-evaluation and the next general election, and basically once again weighing up whether or not they should go it alone. What is new? What is different this time around? What will make them pull the trigger, if they will pull the trigger? Dr. Mohubetswane Mashilo of the SACP is scheduled to speak to me at about 10 to 7 in this hour. We have all of your regulars lined up, and Musa with your news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic updates every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan will be watching your sport throughout the morning. Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula in the second hour with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. And of course, throughout the 3 hours, I'll be taking your calls, and the number to dial for that, 086 000 2032. And I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on the number 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, conversations that move us. The first hour of the morning brief starts now.
Health experts say that taking care of your baby starts the day you learn you have conceived. Changes should start immediately, from what you eat to how you take care of yourself after you've delivered your baby. Does the worry stop? No, it doesn't. From there, it's clinic visits, breastfeeding, introducing solids, and the list goes on. If you're a mom, father, or caregiver and are curious on how to support your kids' development to reach their full potential, or even concerned about the nutrition that strengthens their bodies, then our new SABC education feature, Side by Side, is for you. Get all the advice you need from the Department of Health by tuning in every Wednesday and Thursday at 2:30 p.m. on The Full Circle on SAFM, starting in October. Tune into the feature and you could win 1,000 Rand with our monthly competition. Side by Side, brought to you by SABC Education on SAFM, leading the conversation.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
For that, let's say good morning to Ann Musa. Good morning, Ann. Did you have a great weekend?
Good morning. I did. You've summed it up nicely. A weekend filled with so much of emotion.
Yeah. Highs and lows.
Highs and lows, yes.
Yeah. And I see today is a big day for the class of 2024. The matric exams start today.
It is. It's nerves, it's excitement, guessing parents, probably feeling more anxious today.
Absolutely.
Yes, the 2024 Matric exam starts today until the 28th of next month. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has extended his well wishes to the Matric class of 2024. We're looking at Matric readiness as well as drawing attention to the learner dropout rates. Many learners are set to drop out of school before reaching grade 12, and a recent Stats SA report reveals that over 1 million learners enrolled in grade 1 in 2013, and yet the Department of Education saying that over 720,000 full-time and just about 155,000 part-time candidates will sit for the Matric exam across the country. Looking at the importance of support for the learners, it's vital. The Basic Education Department also closely monitoring the South African Weather Service weather warning, especially in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. Other news items: the food safety regulations adherence inspections are set to take place at all spaza shops in townships in Gauteng, and the Gauteng Finance and Economic Development MEC Lebogang Maile held a press briefing yesterday, and it comes in the wake of the 6 children who died in Soweto after consuming suspected contaminated snacks that they allegedly bought from a spaza shop. Mahile is also expected to visit Boipatong and Soweto, and it comes, after the looting of spaza shops belonging to foreign nationals. Calls for Kabelo Kwamanda's removal as the City of Joburg councillor, and Kwamanda, who has served as mayor earlier this year, was taken into custody on fraud-related charges, and this for his alleged involvement in a fraudulent funeral policy scheme. We have reaction from Al Jamaa, who has raised concerns about the timing of the arrest of the former Johannesburg mayor. The Senzo Mehiwa murder trial set to resume in the Pretoria High Court. It was adjourned on Friday, and during the testimony of the lead investigator, Brigadier Bongani Kininda, 5 men are on trial for the 2014 murder of Senzo Mehiwa. In the Western Cape, 4 people expected to appear in the Vredenburg Magistrates Court, and it is in connection with the disappearance of 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith. And during the last appearance, the court heard that new evidence has since come to light, and that the postponement to today has been marked as the final. And just lastly, the multiple murder accused Inokundo is also expected back in the High Court in Tohoyando. He's accused of killing 7 family members at Jimmy Jones Village on Christmas Day in 2021. The state there is expected to call 2 more witnesses before wrapping up its case. Some of the stories that we are focusing on this morning.
All right, and we'll catch up a bit later on. We'll catch up with you a bit later on. That's Ann Musa. She'll have you updated every half hour with your news here on the Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So as you heard, and they're mentioning that the weather may be a factor to consider on day 1 of the matric exams. Let me give you a sense then of why that is. There are 4 warnings that have been issued by the South African Weather Service. The first one is an orange warning level 6 for disruptive rainfall that is expected along the coast and adjacent interior between Port Alfred and Richards Bay, resulting in flooding of roads and settlements, damage to infrastructure and mud-based houses, as well as major disruption of traffic flow due to major roads being flooded or closed. The second one, yellow warning level 4, severe thunderstorms expected over most parts of KwaZulu-Natal, southwestern parts of Mpumalanga, Gauteng, as well as Free State, Northwest Province, and the extreme northeastern parts of the Northern Cape. which may lead to damage to structures due to hail and wind, damage or loss of infrastructure, settlements, formal and informal, property, vehicles, livelihood and livestock. Then we have a yellow level warning 4, which talks about disruptive rain leading to localized flooding of settlements, roads, damage to property and infrastructure for the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, Kouga, Sundays River Valley, Makana, Ndlambe, Raymond Mhlaba local municipalities of the Eastern Cape. Finally, a fire danger warning says extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the extreme northeastern parts of the Northern Cape, in places in the northwest, as well as in places of northern Limpopo. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 25. Johannesburg, cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 23. Mbombela is cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers in the morning, 18 to 26. Polokwane, cloudy, 15 to 26. Mahikeng, cloudy and windy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 27. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy and windy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 10 to 25. Kimberley is partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 12 to 30. Cape Town is fine. The wind is moderate to fresh southeasterly with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 24. Gqeberha is cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers. The wind is fresh to strong easterly with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 18. Durban is cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers. The wind is moderate to fresh easterly to northeasterly, reaching strong at times with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 20. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 15.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye!"
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
At 23 minutes past 6, let's focus on this story. Hurricane Oscar reached Cuba on Sunday as the island country struggles to restore power after its worst blackout in years. The U.S. National Hurricane Center has been monitoring that Hurricane Oscar. On Saturday, Cuba's government restored power to nearly 1/5 of the island's 10 million people after the national grid collapsed twice in 24 hours. The U.S. National Hurricane Center expects the hurricane to weaken after making landfall on the northeastern coast of Cuba, but it could still be a tropical storm when it moves north of Cuba late on Monday and across the central Bahamas on Tuesday. Let's make sense of these weather patterns and these hurricanes. I'm joined by Professor Jasper Knight, who's from the Wits School of Geography and Environmental environmental science. Good morning to you, Prof. Thank you for your time this morning. So it quickly escalated from a tropical storm to a hurricane, but I see now that it's expected to weaken. Just the impact that we can expect from Hurricane Oscar.
Yes, good morning to you. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it is a rapid intensification of a tropical cyclone into a hurricane. So it expanded very quickly. And this particular hurricane then moved westward through the central Caribbean. And as you say, it's kind of made landfall over eastern Cuba basically yesterday and is now turning towards the north. So here, of course, it poses significant challenges to the government in Cuba in dealing with the impacts of this hurricane upon people and, of course, upon the already weakened infrastructure, as you've said here. So here there are a wide range of different things that the Cuban government has to cope with. The most significant thing in terms of the hurricane is that, first of all, it's associated with very strong winds. So here, Hurricane Oscar has reached gusts up to 130 kilometers an hour. And it's also associated with really heavy rainfall. And this, of course, has the potential to lead to flash floods, landslides, destroying of homes and infrastructure, and, of course, potentially killing people as well.
Yeah, and Prof, we're going through the names in the alphabet, right? From Hurricane Beryl to, I don't know, at some point we had Helene, Milton, and now Oscar. Is this par for the course, or is there a sense that the intensity is getting stronger in this particular season?
Well, this particular season, 2024, the hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin itself is actually slightly unusual. First of all, we've had some really significant and really strong hurricanes. You mentioned Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton that moved through the southern states of the US from the Gulf of Mexico last month, giving rise to significant impacts. These are the strongest hurricanes since Hurricane Katrina in 2005. But the other thing to note as well is that we've actually had fewer hurricanes this year compared to previous years. But the hurricane season kind of kicked off very early and is also continuing very late. So we've got some, significant complex changes taking place here. And this may be indicative of kind of reorganization of the global climate system by climate change, giving rise to more erratic patterns of hurricanes.
Yeah, and in fact, I read somewhere that particular area, the Atlantic Ocean, has warmed some 1 degree over the last, 2-3 decades?
That's correct. Yes, I mean, this is basically the generation area for tropical cyclones and then potentially leading into hurricanes. And warm sea surface temperatures are the kind of foundation factors for the development of these strong storms. And as sea surface temperatures globally increase under climate change, they simply provide more fuel for these very strong weather systems. And so what we see is kind of consistent with the potential impacts of ongoing climate change. And of course, this is really concerning. Because if hurricanes are going to become more frequent, more erratic and stronger in the future, then of course we need to have a plan in place to deal with it.
Prof, I was fascinated by a comment by a meteorologist from the National Hurricane Center who said, quote, "Unfortunately, the system kind of snuck up a little bit on us," end quote. Is that possible within your craft and your profession, that a storm such as Hurricane Oscar can sneak up? I was saying earlier on that, it appeared to be a minor storm, but actually it quickly intensified. Is that something that's possible for it to sneak up on you?
Well, in a sense, that is absolutely right. Because certainly under climate change, we are seeing more rapid intensification of cyclones into hurricanes. So basically over a single day, they can go from kind of just a weather system not being of any concern to suddenly being a hurricane, which is of real concern. And this can happen really quickly. But it really sort of highlights the importance of monitoring, because we need to know what's happening in real time, because these changes are taking place within the weather system itself very, very quickly. So we need to be ahead of the game here.
Just out of curiosity, Prof, why do these hurricanes manifest more towards the eastern seaboard of the United States, North America, as well as the Caribbean, but it's the same ocean and same waters as West Africa? How come they intensify and occur more frequently that side of the ocean as opposed to this side? I'm glad it's that way, that it's not on our side, but just out of curiosity, why?
Well, the reason is actually for the fact that here the upper level winds are moving from the east towards the west. So therefore they move away from Africa towards the Americas. And that's simply due to the movement of air in the atmosphere as a result of the Earth spinning on its axis. But having said that, these types of weather systems also affect in South Africa as well, because of course we get tropical cyclones coming from east to west across the southern part of the Indian Ocean. So of course, we've had cyclone Freddy, cyclone Adai, cyclone Dineo.
Yes.
These were strong cyclones that we've had over recent years. So exactly the same kind of process also affects us here, and so therefore we may sort of be very smug and saying, okay, these areas affecting Cuba, nothing to do with us, but actually they are to do with us, because exactly the same processes affect us here.
I'm glad you've made that point. Thank you for that, Professor Jasper Knight from the Wits School of Geography and Environmental Science, giving us an update there on the weather systems, including Hurricane Oscar. And with that, we've come to 6:30. Let's go to Ann Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Basic Education Department says it's closely monitoring the South African Weather Service's inclement weather warning, especially in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. This as matriculants start their final examinations today. A fire has severely damaged about 9 houses in Cosmos, a suburb of Hartbeespoort in the northwest. Police spokesperson Adele Myburg says the fire started yesterday morning, and the UN peacekeeping mission in southern Lebanon says an Israeli bulldozer has destroyed a watchtower and the perimeter fence of one of its positions. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning to major backlogs along the N3 route through KZN. Truck crash at Funrinens Pass. The southbound has a lane open. The northbound remains closed. So Joburg bound up over Funrinens Pass towards the village. Long backlogs of traffic there. And then if you're Durban bound on the N3, the road is closed at Town Hill. We have been updating on x.com at Traffic SA. You can have a look at the spillage. You can have a look at the truck crash. You can have a look at the enormous backlog of trucks that are stuck there. And you can also see the real-time queues. So all of that at Traffic SA on x.com. But I can tell you it's very heavy coming from Hilton, with trucks being stacked right down to the closure at Town Hill. A couple of motorists caught in that as well, unable to get through, being caught there since this crash overnight last night. Motorists are now being diverted off at Sudara. Somewhere like that, maybe you might sort of be able to get off. You might want to come off at Hilton before you get into that. So just make a plan. It will extend travel times between Howick and Pietermaritzburg, and it will significantly backlog truck traffic this morning. Just staying in Durban and KZN, really wet weather conditions. 85 mils of rain up until 5 o'clock yesterday. So that's a 24-hour period. That's a lot of rain, and it's set to be raining all day today as well. So just take it easy. Give yourself time to get through. Crash on the Higginson Highway coming out of Chatsworth. Big backlogs this morning from Bayview all the way down through towards, if you like, towards the N2 highway. Joburg's Mike 1 pretty heavily backed, unusually so by its own standards, coming up into the Crown. The queues really from Uncle Charlie's as you swing off the N12 highway. And Cape Town Sand at Baden-Powell Drive. It's quite thick. It's not surprising given the winds that Cape Town experienced over the weekend. That wind just blows the sand up onto the coastal tracks of Baden-Powell. So Monmouth, BC, and at Coastal Park, if you use Baden-Powell, factor in some diversions away from that. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai. Did you have a good weekend?
We definitely cried and then laughed. So yeah, thank you, Judith Sapuma.
You cry, you smile, you dance.
Ah, yes.
All the emotions.
All
you
the
go
emotions.
Through it wasn't to be for Laura Wolford and the girls, right?
Yeah,
But
that
what a
one.
valiant effort.
Valiant indeed. Yeah. We definitely cried and we definitely laughed at some of those dropped catches. But nevertheless, you know what they say, there'll be a better comeback story. And a comeback story starts with good rhythm, I would imagine. And that's how it was at the Women's T20 World Cup final. New Zealand beating the Proteas by 32 runs in Dubai. New Zealand's Amanda Kerr delivering that standout all-round performance, scoring 43 runs and taking 3 wickets to lead her team to victory. The Proteas did struggle with their fielding, conceding wides and no balls, and their middle order collapsed under pressure, with captain Laura Wolfart top scoring with just 33 runs. Despite a spirited semi-final win against Australia, South Africa's final hurdle proving too high once again. But let's hear now from New Zealand's captain, Sophie Devine, who hailed her team's performance.
Yeah, look, I think we merely spoken about it at length in terms of the 2000 winning World Cup side and the motivation and inspiration that had on the likes of merely yourself and me and a number of young kids coming through at that time. So I'm really hopeful that tonight's victory can inspire that next generation of not just young girls but young boys as well to pick up a cricket bat, a cricket ball. It still feels pretty surreal at the moment, and the impact of hopefully what tonight we've been able to achieve is going to be long-standing and long-reaching, I think.
Now, soccer news, get ready for an epic showdown in South African football. Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns are set to clash in the quarterfinals of the Carling Knockout Cup, reigniting the drama after their thrilling Betway Premiership encounter earlier this season. Chiefs powered past SuperSport United with a 4-0 win over the weekend, while Sundowns demolished Golden Arrows 5-0, setting the stage for a heated rematch. Fans are in for another high-stakes battle as Chiefs aim to avenge their 2-1 loss to Sundowns. Elsewhere, the giant killers Magesi FC will take on TS Galaxy, and the defending champions Stellenbosch FC face Maruma Gallants. It's a quarter-final weekend not to be missed. Now, a dramatic weekend in the Premier League with major upsets as well as controversial moments. Arsenal's title hopes took a hit after a 2-0 loss to Bournemouth, their first defeat of the season, compounded by yet another red card, this time for William Saliba. Meanwhile, Manchester City narrowly escaped a shock result against bottom-of-the-table Wolves thanks to a last-gasp header from John Stones, which stirred controversy after a VAR review overturned an offside decision. 2-1 the final score. On the other hand, Liverpool continued their strong start under new manager Arne Slot, overcoming Chelsea 2-1 in their clash at Anfield. Curtis Jones shined with a winning goal as the Reds maintained their momentum. Now, motorsport news. Ott Tanak kept his cool to win the Central European Rally yesterday and send the fight for the World Rally Championships title down to the final event in Japan next month. The Hyundai driver Tanak finished 7 seconds ahead of Toyota's Elfyn Evans, with championship leader Thierry Neuville rounding out the podium nearly 40 seconds behind. And finally, history was made in Cape Town this weekend. Glenrose Taba smashed the South African women's marathon record in her debut over the 42.2 kilometre distance. Taba clocked an incredible 2 hours, 22 minutes and 22 seconds, beating Ethiopia's Mara Dibaba by 14 seconds and taking nearly 2 minutes off the previous record set by Gerda Steyn last year. Now, Taba's victory marks the first time a South African woman has won the Cape Town Marathon since 2010, and that capped off a stellar year for the 29-year-old, who also shattered Ilana Meyer's 10-kilometre record earlier this year. And on that note, that's how we wrap up the morning brief. We'll bring you more stories. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechelang. And Ndauling, I hope you had a good weekend.
Morning, Thulas. I had a lovely weekend. Hope you had a good one too.
I did too. So let's start with China and growth. Has fallen short of government's expectations and targets there.
That's right, Tula. So GDP figures for the third quarter show that the world's second largest economy is growing, but at a slower pace than the last quarter. The economy expanded by 4.6%, coming in line with expectations, but easing from growth of 4.7% recorded in the second quarter. This brought the year-to-date GDP growth to 4.8%, still below Beijing's 5% annual target. In the past 3 weeks, the government has introduced several stimulus measures in an effort to boost China's sluggish economic growth. That country's economy has been struggling due to deflation, weak private spending, and a prolonged property market slump. Despite these efforts, there has been mixed reaction because the government hasn't provided specific details on the timing or scope of the measures. Now, despite market concerns, China remains confident it will meet its 5% annual growth target by year end. The government also announced plans to support the property market and address local government debt. Now, recent data supports the government's optimistic outlook as both industrial production and retail sales for September came in better than expected, and the unemployment rate dropped to 5.1%. The country's central bank also cutting interest rates again this morning, another attempt by authorities to just boost that economy.
It seems more people are choosing to Netflix and chill than Netflix itself had anticipated.
That's right. Now, during the third quarter, the streaming services group added 5.1 million subscribers, beating analyst expectations of 4.5 million. Now, the past quarter's addition brings total subscribers across the world to 282.7 million. This makes Netflix the most popular streaming business globally. And the recent success, well, this year's success in particular, is attributed to its strategic changes since late 2022, including the introduction of a cheaper ad-supported membership and a crackdown on password sharing, which has helped the company gain 60 million subscribers in 2 years. Membership in this ad-supported option rose 35%, following a 34% increase in the previous quarter. That advertising unit has helped the group diversify its revenue streams, and in the third quarter, revenue increased 15% to $9.8 billion, and it expects that top line to continue growing, pegging growth of up to 13% for next year as it continues to introduce its ad-supported tier in different regions. Now, looking at contributions from those regions, in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, sales grew by 16%. The second largest region, EMEA, which includes Africa, experienced similar growth. The Asia Pacific region saw the strongest growth with a 19% sales increase, driven by localized content in Japan, Korea, Thailand, and India. In contrast, Latin America's sales only grew 9%, affected by price changes and a less robust content offering.
Always fascinating, those streaming wars. Lastly, Dowling, a recap of how we closed on Friday, both here at home but also in Asia and the United States.
So global markets ending last week on a positive note, particularly in the US, with that region clocking its sixth consecutive weekly gain following upbeat economic data and a strong start to the third quarter earnings season. With that, we saw the Nasdaq make the biggest gains, closing 0.63% higher. The JSE also jumping onto the bandwagon, finishing the week in the green, benefiting from the general upbeat sentiment. The All Share finishing last week 0.7% higher. The rand, in the meantime, making slight gains, breaking below the 1760 mark. It's currently trading at 17.59 to the dollar. Over in Asia, news out from China driving markets there. Those stocks in the green following another attempt from Beijing policymakers to boost the economy. The central bank, as mentioned, cutting rates again this morning following the GDP print that missed the government's target.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lechela. She'll be back with you in the second hour of the show with yet another update on the economy, business and markets, both here at home and around the world.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I was recently diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome. Patients like myself go through a long and strenuous journey to get a stem cell transplant. I am grateful for the support I've received as I wait for the call that my donor has been found. This Sunflower Month, be a lifeline to patients like myself by registering to become a stem cell donor. You can save a life by registering at dkmsafrica.org.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
Did you know the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa is reopening passenger rail lines that were severely affected by infrastructure damage and cable theft? 31 out of 40 priority lines are now fully operational. 266 stations are fully functional in cities across the country. The Gibela Train Factory has manufactured 246 trains, and half of these are already being utilized by PRASA, which has completed 35 million passenger trips across different regions to date. Doing more together, building better infrastructure and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
All right, let's focus on education now. Today marks the beginning of final exams for the Matric class of 2024. The Free State province, which received the highest pass rate in 2023, will no doubt be hoping to retain that position. This year, the province has set the target to achieve a 90% pass rate to surpass its 2023 pass rate of 89.03%. For more on this, I'm joined now by Dr. Julia Mabuya, who is the Free State MEC for Education. MEC, good morning. Thank you for your time. So your target is 90%. Please tell us about the steps you have taken concretely in the last few months to ensure that you realize this objective.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. Yes, indeed, we are still positive about achieving our goal of 90% pass rate. And we have done a number of interventions to ensure that not only the system is ready for these exams, but also our learners are ready. Thulasizwe, you must also recall that this is the cohort that actually suffered under your COVID-19 conditions. So our support to them was informed by the learning losses mainly that they suffered during 2020 when they were in grade 8. Just when they entered their high school year, first year at high school, we were hit by COVID-19. Therefore, we had to come up with very strong interventions from the time when they started in grade 9. So as a result, and what you see now being interventions this year, they were tailor-made as early as in 2020. So the type of support that we have given them support in terms of giving them sufficient extra time for them to be able to prepare themselves. We have had a number of holiday classes, your autumn classes, your winter classes, your spring classes. Even now, most of them are still in camps where we are making it a point that we maximize the hours that they spend on their work. Sure. But not only that, we've also supported them in terms of the materials that we gave them for them to be able to study and to really make sure that wherever they are, they don't only depend on being in class, but they are able also wherever they are to prepare themselves. We have given them study material.
MEC, logistically, if I can just focus on the exams themselves, what preparations have gone into ensuring that the logistics come into play smooth and seamlessly over the next few weeks of exams?
Yes. The logistics are in place. That's why I'm talking about the readiness of the system. We have made sure that we register them as we should. We have made sure that the exam centers are compliant. We have trained the invigilators. The monitors are there as well. We have made sure that in terms of our question papers, the packaging, printing, packaging, and distribution, everything is actually in place. So it's all systems go.
Lastly, MEC, I do need to ask you about this. There was a writing by the Vice Dean of Education at Stellenbosch earlier in the year, and I'm sure you will have come across it, Michael Lecodieu, who was talking about perhaps the high pass rate in the Free State masking a problem a particularly pronounced problem. We have it nationally, the high dropout rate, but he says it is more pronounced in the Free State. Address that for me, MEC. What have you done to improve that situation so that your achievement...
I lost you a little bit.
All right, let me ask you straight up. What have you done in the past year or so to ensure that your commendable achievements at Matric level are not sort of downplayed by a high dropout rate?
Yeah, it's something that is quite worrisome.
Right, MEC, we seem to be having a...
Are you still with me?
We're battling.
I'm traveling, so...
Yeah, it's all good,
Are you
MEC.
battling?
I think we've covered quite a bit of ground, and of course there will be other occasions to have this conversation. Let's leave it there for now. The line there letting us down towards the end. That's Dr. Julia Mabuya, who is the Free State MEC for Education.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
No change at Town Hill. The road to Durban remains closed between Peter Brown and Chatterton. So we're talking Town Hill closure. That's a truck that crashed and had a big spillage. Teams recovering that scene, and that's why the road is closed. A long backlog of trucks and some vehicles stuck between Hilton and Town Hill this morning. Between the scene and the back of the queues, very, very long, very heavy. If you're coming from Howick, from Hilton, you'll be diverted off at Sadara. If you're coming from Hilton, I guess you'll just go straight across and take the alternative routing there. But just factor in extra time to get from Howick or inland parts down through that area towards Pietermaritzburg. You'll be diverted onto the old road, and if you're driving a truck, you'll just simply be shepherded through and join the back of an impressive backlog of truck traffic, which is all queued up there. It is very wet across the Durban region, Durban and surrounds, parts of KZN as well. 85 mils of rain recorded in the last 24 hours. That's a lot, so there are some flooding and surface water patches to watch as well. Also, big delays out of Chatsworth with crash at Havenside on Higginson Highway. That traffic coming out of Chatsworth on the M1 is very long queues. Joburg, the Mike 1, pretty heavy today from Uncle Charlie's all the way through to Empire Road, and one from Bayers Nordier up to Winnie Mandela slow. Queuing pressure at Spruitview as well on the N3 North, just coming up from Leondale towards Heidelberg Road. Looks like something's happened on that section of the N3. The N1 from Pretoria down to Joburg, getting stuck with the breakdown at Samrand and pushing a queue right back through to John Foster Drive. Cape Town side, there's some sand on Baden Powell at Monmouthbisi, Khayelitsha, and also at Coastal Park. I would think at some point you can factor in some diversions off Baden Powell and a little reroute either up through sort of Lotus River or through Khayelitsha around the sand patches. And Marine Drive, still a problem. We're into the second week, I think, or maybe just over. Still a problem with the synchronization of the lights at Loxton Road. So Marine Drive through Milnerton queuing as you have been for just over a week now at this time of day. And that traffic, incidentally, stays there probably until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It even backs up on Saturday and Sunday, such is the extent of that problem. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
8 minutes to 7. Let's bring in this story now. The Mpumalanga Department of Education has paid, get this, more than 6 million rand to ghost employees, according to a recent Auditor General report. The Auditor General says the payments are likely to result in a material financial loss for the department if the money is not recovered. Let's bring into the conversation Themba Godi, who is the former Standing Committee on Public Accounts chairperson, a former member of the National Assembly, and of course a leader of the APC party. Good morning to you, Mr. Godi. These figures are shocking, or are they?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me. No, indeed, very shocking, very infuriating to say the least. If you take into account the fact that we were recently told that provinces are running out of money, the Department of Education. And here in Mpumalanga, I know of a number of villages where the schools are dilapidated, and the department say they can't rebuild those schools because there is no money. There are schools where in grade 12, a school has more than 150 students, but the pupil-teacher ratio is very high. And then you then get this kind of reports that money is being wasted on ghost workers. So it is indeed a very sad and infuriating situation.
But how is this even possible? And that's why I asked you that question in that way. Well, how is this even possible? Because if it's resignations, we know the systems that are supposed to kick in when a person resigns, the systems that are supposed to kick in when a person has passed on. Where are the loopholes as far as you understand?
No, look, these are administrative decisions taken by people in the offices. And we know Mpumalanga, for those of you who live outside it's one of the most corrupt provinces, and it has a problem of leadership, very weak leadership. Even the current premier is known within Mpumalanga circles to be very weak character. So corruption thrives, corruption continues. So it is not so much that there is any technical difficulty to remove and replace people who are deceased. You know, we have this with Sassa. I'm sure you're aware of the report that affected PRASA about ghost workers. It's very much a decision. That's why my view is that the people who are receiving the salaries and the officials in the HR department do need to be investigated. And remember, my brother, the Auditor General only does a sample. They don't audit everything. Imagine if they were to audit everything within the department.
Sure, it could turn out to be the tip of the iceberg. Thank you for that. That's Themba Godi, who is a former chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts in the National Assembly, but also the leader of the APC party.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Let's talk politics now, and the South African Communist Party says it will re-evaluate its role as an alliance partner of the African National Congress in the 2026 local government elections and the next general election. This comes amidst an ongoing dispute over the formation of the Government of National Unity. You'll remember, of course, that the SACP has expressed its dissatisfaction with the Democratic Alliance and the Freedom Front Plus being a part of the coalition governing the country. Let's bring into the conversation Mohobetswane Mashilo, who is the SACP Central Committee and Political Bureau member. Good morning to you, Dr. Mashilo. I've got to thank you for your time. So what has changed this time around? It's not the first time that you are talking about the possibility of contesting elections alone, independent of your alliance partner, the ANC.
Welcome back to SAFM. Every 5 years, the SACP holds a special national congress and a national congress. And these two highest decision-making bodies of the SACP evaluate all strategies and tactics as well as the program of the party. They then make new decisions. One of the areas in the evaluation is our electoral strategy, which we have been evaluating every 2.5 years because the Special National Congress occurs in between the 5-yearly national congresses. Sure. At the last National Congress, there were 2 additions made. One, that while we should pursue the reconfiguration of our alliance to improve collective leadership and accountability and to maximize the impact of the alliance, we must now begin a new process of forging a popular left front on the issues that the alliance does not address or fall outside the common area that has brought together as the alliance. So in December this year, we will be evaluating progress in that context, and that evaluation will occur in the context of the May 2024 election examination.
You'll understand skepticism of people who will say that we've been hearing the SACP talking about this possibility of standing independently in elections. There was a resolution from, we can go back as far as 2007 when this idea first came up. 2017, you revisited it, and again at your 15th Congress, which included a declaration that had to do with building, you must pay a particular attention to the strategy and tactics suitable for active engagement in the electoral terrain of the class struggle. And that's a quote. Do you regret prevaricating on acting on that declaration from 2022 from your Congress in supporting the ANC in the 2024 elections?
No. We have never prevaricated. It is important that people understand the text of the resolution. Every time we discussed elections, we reaffirmed the strategic importance of the alliance. We also took a decision that if the alliance is to make more impact, it has to be reconfigured. It was only in 2017 and 2022 that we made additions to that resolution. That while we pursue the reconfiguration of the alliance as a matter of strategy, we are now adding a new process of forging a popular left front, and going forward every 2.5 years and every 5 years when we hold a national congress, we will evaluate progress and make a decision. So this is the context under which we will be holding the special national congress in December. Mm-hmm. And to say that you are evaluating, you are not making a decision ahead of the evaluation.
All right, let's leave it there. That's Dr. Mohobetswane Mashilo, who speaks on behalf of the SACP, talking about the decisions that they will make at their special National Congress coming up in December regarding participation in elections. At 7 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Basic Education Department monitoring weather warnings in Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, and over 200 cases of food poisoning in Gauteng this year. Good morning. We start with news just in. The youngest daughter of the late IFP leader, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, has died. We'll have details of Sibuyiselwe Buthelezi's death in our next bulletin. The Basic Education Department says it's closely monitoring the South African Weather Service's inclement weather warning, especially in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. This as matriculants start their final examinations today. This year, over 880,000 full-time and part-time candidates will sit for the Matric exams across South Africa. About 16,000 students from private schools will sit for the IEB exams. The department's Director General is Hubert Mweli, who briefed the media in Pretoria.
I'm working with colleagues from both provinces, KZN and Eastern Cape, but I'm also liaising with the DG of COGTA so that we remain ready if there's anything that needs to happen to rescue the class of 2024 and make sure that the exams proceed incident-free.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa sent a message of encouragement to the Matric class of 2024.
Matric is quite a challenging exam, but I know that our matriculants are up to it. You've all been working very hard and preparing for these exams, so I wish you the best of luck. Many who have written these exams before you always done well, and I know you will not disappoint. You will also do extremely well. Get those distinctions, get those passes. Good luck.
Gauteng Finance and Economic Development MEC Lebogang Maile is today expected to visit Boipatong in the Vaal and Naledi in Soweto. He's expected to engage with families and communities that the recent violence related to spaza shops affected. Maile's visit follows residents looting and closure of foreign-owned spaza shops after allegations of contaminated food being sold in the shops. Residents have accused shop owners of selling expired goods and products. Maile says the province has reported 207 cases of food poisoning between February and September this year.
I intend to be at the forefront of this rebuilding agenda
and will, over the coming days, be visiting affected townships to facilitate meaningful dialogue as we recover from a difficult period in our province. Hence, tomorrow we will be in Sharpeville and Naledi. I also wish to extend my deepest condolences to the families and loved ones of children who have perished in Gauteng townships over the past year. May their souls rest in perfect peace.
A fire has severely damaged about 9 houses in Cosmos, a suburb of Hartbeespoort in the northwest. Police spokesperson Adele Myburg says the fire started yesterday morning. She says preliminary investigations show the fire started at a house with thatched roofing. Strong wind quickly spread the flames to neighbouring properties. A large contingent of emergency personnel was sent to the scene. Police are investigating an arson case. And finally, the UN peacekeeping mission in southern Lebanon says an Israeli bulldozer has destroyed a watchtower and the perimeter fence of one of its positions. It's the latest in a series of incidents that have followed Israel's call for the UN peacekeeping troops to withdraw. The peacekeeping mission in Lebanon spokesperson in Beirut is Andrea Tanetti.
From what we have seen, also the videos, was clearly a deliberate attack against our base. This is again another of the attacks that we have been suffering in the last several weeks from the Israeli Defense Forces. It's important that this is a violation not only of Resolution 1701, but also a violation of international humanitarian law. So peacekeepers should not be targeted.
Recapping the top story with news just in, the youngest daughter of the IFP leader Mangosuthu Buthelezi, Sibuyiselwe Buthelezi, has died. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. Here's what real clients say about Outsurance. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
They give me lesser amount for my car. 523 rand on my 2013 Hyundai iX35.
Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
Give Outsurance a call. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
No change at Town Hill. On your way to Durban, the road remains closed. Lengthy backlogs for trucks, which are having to stack down towards the closure, and motorists being diverted off at Sadara, just causing some delays due to the extra volumes heading along the old road into Pietermaritzburg area. The N3 north at Van Rynens remains obstructed, and there's lengthy queues coming off Van Rynens Pass up towards Van Rynen Village on your way through to Joburg. Joburg's Mike 1 this morning, heavy from Uncle Charlie's all the way through to Parktown side. There's a breakdown on the N12 Tom Jones Street, backlogging traffic out of Benoni area, and the usual breakdown these days on the N1 South at Buccleuch. So coming through from Allendale, there's a secondary backlog after you've got through the queues between Brakfontein and Olifantsfontein this morning. Cape Town, the M3, that's heavy today from Constantia, moving up towards Paradise Road. Lights still a problem with their synchronisation. Marine Drive at Loxton, so again another busy queue into that Woodbridge Island area, and 2 patches of sand along Baden-Powell at Monmouth BC, so some diversions around that through Khayelitsha, and some delays around Coastal Park with sand on the carriageway there between Strandfontein and Muizenberg. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Cricket, the Proteas women lose the T20 World Cup final, and good news for South Africa's Glen Rose Gaba. Well, she made history this weekend, smashing the women's marathon record. All this and more at around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, South Africa. We are into the second hour of the morning brief on this Monday. It's good to have you with us. Among the stories that we will cover in this hour include this. If all the indices that matter, inflation, interest rates, fuel prices, the energy supply stability, aka load shedding, are all heading in the right direction. Why are food prices seemingly bulking that trend? That is the question. There are calls for the Competition Commission to probe this very question, why food prices do not seem to decrease more quickly when producer input costs decrease. We have that conversation lined up for you within this half hour that will be probing into that specific question. We also will focus on water and quality of life. Water interruptions, we are told, have reached critical levels in South Africa's major urban centres in Gauteng, Cape Town, in the Western Cape, as well as Durban in KwaZulu-Natal. In Gauteng, widespread outages are linked to, we are told, decaying infrastructure, rising demand and poor maintenance, with public trust in water quality sharply declining. We'll be in conversation with the Gauteng City Region Observatory after they released their biennial quality of life survey, and also that identified water interruptions in the Gauteng city regions as being quote-unquote through the roof, and also talked about dissatisfaction with water services ranking far higher among residents of the city region, that is Gauteng. That conversation lined up for you also within this half hour. All of your regulars locked and loaded, but also we will be taking your calls, and the number to dial is 086 000 2032, but I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The second hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye!"
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
The citizens of Manchester are highly motivated to cruise with a convincing victory against Southampton.
It's brilliant from Grealish, and Guardiola's up there as well, and City lead.
Meanwhile, the Saints are pumped up to fight for the entire match duration away from home.
It's flicked on, and again the Saints have the effort, and this time he does score, and we're back in the game.
This is the Premier League. Catch the exciting contest between reigning champions Manchester City FC and Southampton FC on Saturday 26 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Here's what real clients say about Outsurance. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
They give me lesser amount for my car. 523 rand on my 2013 Hyundai iX35.
Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
Give Outsurance a call. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
12 minutes after 7 on this Monday, water interruptions have reached critical levels in South Africa's major urban centres in Gauteng, Cape Town and Durban. In Gauteng, widespread outages are linked to decaying infrastructure, rising demand and poor maintenance, with public trust in water quality sharply declining. According to the Gauteng City Region Observatory's biennial Quality of Life survey, water interruptions in the Gauteng City region are quote-unquote through the roof, and dissatisfaction with water services ranks far higher. Let's continue that conversation. Let's take it forward. I'm joined by Gillian Murray, who is the Gauteng City Region Observatory's senior researcher. Good morning to you, ma'am. I've got to thank you for your time. So this biennial Quality of Life survey, how high does the interruption of water in the Gauteng City region rank among those surveyed?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Yes, so we ask a range of questions around water, and one of those is around water interruptions. And the way we measure it is we ask households how frequently they experience water interruptions. So that can be from I never have water interruptions to I have water interruptions every week. And what the results showed us this time is that just under that 9.5% of households have water interruptions every week. And the majority have water interruptions at least a couple times a month or a couple times a year. The one point I do want to raise and work that we've done previously with this data is that it's not everyone experiences water interruptions, but they're not equally distributed. So, for example, if those in households with lower incomes tend to have more frequent water interruptions. And if you're more well-off, you live in a wealthy area, you're far more likely to have water interruptions only a couple times a year, maybe once a month, compared to households on the periphery who are poor, are far more likely to have water interruptions every week.
So from that that you're picking up, are you able to align it with other data that is known as to then get to the reasons why that is, that it's not evenly distributed, that if you live in poorer communities, you are more likely to experience water interruptions than someone who lives in the more affluent areas of the Gauteng city region?
We've done a little bit of work on that. We do need to do some more. A lot of it has got to do with the type of infrastructure that you have available and the type of settlement you live in. So, for example, if you live and this is probably quite obvious, but if you live in an informal area, you have far less reliable access to services. The same with townships and more rapidly newer developed settlements. If you live in central wealthier areas where that infrastructure has been around and has probably is more likely to have been maintained, you are less likely to have interruptions.
And in terms of of acting on the work that you've done, once you've done the survey and the outcomes are as you have reflected, what happens next? How does it inform policy and decision making and service delivery decisions?
Excellent question. So we are launching the survey tomorrow. We are expecting the Premier to be at the launch as well. So we work in partnership with government, GCRO. We're funded by provincial government. So government has paid for the survey to be done. And they do watch the results quite closely. We make sure that the data is available freely. We do a lot of work with government, making sure they get the results in whatever format they would like to have available from them. And then we do quite a bit of work in the period in between the surveys to try and analyze what that means and see how we input those results into policy. So, for example, this time around, we're framing the results from the survey as households dealing with many interconnected crises happening at a household level. So the term, as we as academics like to use, is a polycrisis. Mm-hmm. And that really just means that households are facing many different challenges. So not only water interruptions or satisfaction with services, but crime, health, transport difficulties. And we frame those that data in a way that it hopefully makes it available to government in a way that they can use it. Both as data, we map it spatially as well. And we really do put effort in to make sure it is accessible. Lastly, ma'am, are you in any position at all from the work that you have done to speak to the question of quote-unquote day zero for Gauteng? It's a headline that you will see in the media and politicians bandy that about. But from the work you have done, are you able to answer the question of whether or not your sense is that Gauteng is close to a day zero? Is that even a concept? Yeah, I can't, from the data that I've got, I can't give you a direct answer to that. That comes more from hydrological information. What I will say is we do ask households whether they think Gauteng is going to run out of water. And we've been asking it for about 8 years now, I think I stand to be corrected. Mm-hmm. But the 64% of households in Gauteng do believe that Gauteng may run out of water, which is extremely high. That's the highest it's been, even when in 2016, when we had water restrictions in Gauteng and day zero was a reality in Cape Town, we had more confidence in water. A household had more confidence in water. The other side of that I will say is the other piece of data we have is we ask households whether or not they're satisfied with the water services they have. And we've seen a very steady decline in confidence and satisfaction with the services that households have access to. And I think it's those types of things, as well as declining confidence with governments across all levels of government. You know, households in Gauteng are increasingly unhappy with the job that government is doing. And so that might not be a direct answer to the question around whether we're going to run out of water, but it does say to us that households have increasing concern with government's ability to be able to manage it through. And that's the message I think I'd like to send to decision makers.
Fantastic. Thank you. It's a great response to the question. It's an important perspective that you put on the table. That's Gillian Murray, who is Gauteng City Region Observatory Senior Researcher.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I was recently diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome. Patients like myself go through a long and strenuous journey to get a stem cell transplant. I am grateful for the support I've received as I wait for the call that my donor has been found. This Sunflower Month, be a lifeline to patients like myself by registering to become a stem cell donor. You can save a life by registering at dkmsafrica.org.
Outsurance, they understand my business. They are so good in terms of communication, which gives me confidence. It's a good decision that I've made to move to Outsurance. I'm a winner. I want to be with the winners.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over wreaths to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Bayede!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
At 7:20, let's shift our attention to this story. The Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group says the Competition Commission must determine why food prices do not decrease more quickly when producer input costs decrease. The group says this is concerning because there has been no load shedding for months, fuel prices have sharply decreased, and the rand has strengthened. Mervyn Abrahams, the group's program coordinator, says the slow pace at which prices are adjusted downward could mean that someone in the value chain is guilty of price exploitation. Mervyn Abrahams joins me now on the line to take that conversation forward. So just expand a bit on that. Is this a trend that you are noticing, that food prices do not tend to follow suit when all the indices that matter are headed in the right direction as they are right now?
So good morning, and good morning to all your listeners. Yes, so for the last about 3 or 4 months, we have seen very slight decreases in the cost of our basket of 44 very basic foods. But suddenly again, in the month of September, we have seen that basket increase by about 28 Rand or 0.5%, taking the cost of that basket to about 5,255 Rand. Now, as you correctly said, we have seen for some time now that the rand has strengthened, leading to decreases in petrol prices. We have seen more stabilized electricity and load shedding not being with us for some time. We have also seen that some of the primary commodity costs of global food has also come down over the last year, and yet we're seeing these price increases. And so the question for us, of course, is a question we can't answer because you need data from the industry, which, of course, we don't get. And that is exactly where in the value chain are these increases coming from, and to determine whether these increases are fair or whether food producers or retailers are actually holding on to the increased profits and not passing through to the consumer their reduced costs. And that's a problem, particularly considering that the South African household continues to live in a cost of living crisis.
So what exactly are you asking the Competition Commission to probe?
So we are asking them to look more at specific foods, because it's difficult when you talk around the food basket. You have to look at specific foods. So, for instance, you have to look at maize meal, for instance, and look at the farm gate. What does the farmer get? And then look at the retailer and all the players in between that. Because now we've seen in the months between August and September, for a 30 kgs of maize meal has increased by about 14 Rand and 33 cents. Now that's a massive increase in the price of maize, when we know that we have sufficient maize in the country to feed everyone. So what is going on in that value chain?
Mervyn, let me take a quick call from Janusz in Cape Town. Wants to weigh in on the conversation that you and I are having. Good morning to you, Janusz. You want to talk to me about food prices?
Yes, good morning to Thulasizwe. Yes, that's right. But who is scoring on this? Government scoring for the taxes. So the taxes they take from us and VAT, because the consumer pay the VAT, highest VAT prices for the food. Taking that to the commission, okay, and even if they take it to commission, how does it going to work? Will that, for instance, if the bread is higher price, will this suddenly that factory which produce the bread, will that reduce the price of the bread and give this price lower to the consumer? Or they would just pay penalty and the government would take this money. So I think we had to take the serious issue also of the VAT, because we cannot cover these rich people who earn so much money,
right.
and they're paying the same percentage, 15%. It shouldn't be like this. Many countries, they got a variety of the VAT. I think it's a serious issue.
Thank you, Janusz. That's Janusz in Cape Town. Mr. Abrahams, your response to that, the VAT as a component and the idea of a very varied VAT rate for various income earners?
Yes, so in some instances there are varied rates in other parts of the world. Of course, it becomes extremely difficult for government to implement that. So I can understand government's position in terms of 15% right across the board and exempting certain foods that is most likely to be consumed by the poor. So we have no basic problem with that, except that we believe that some more foods could be exempted from the value-added tax. Currently, on a basket of basic foods, the VAT on our basket of 44 foods come into excess of about 300 Rand. Now that if that is removed, then of course it means that the value of our basket will become 319 Rand less, helping poor income households, because they are the most likeliest people to buy our basket of food. So it can help. But we also have to be careful not to put pressure on government to institute a VAT thing that will be very difficult to implement.
All right, thank you for your time this morning. That is Mervyn Abrahams, who is from the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group, talking about the cost of food not coming down in line and following all the other indices that you and I have seen coming down over the last few months.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me take a call from Lesiba in Limpopo. Lesiba, good morning. You want to talk to me about the former mayor of Joburg and the current MMC, Kabelo Kwamanda. What do you want to weigh in there?
Yeah, good morning to yourself, Thulasizwe, and good morning to producer Lebo. Thanks for taking my call. You see, Thula, I think the mayor there, the executive mayor there in Johannesburg, Tata Marara, should not even wait for pressure from the media, from the residents of Johannesburg. He must just relieve former Mayor Thapelo Kamamba as MMC, and equally so, his own party, Al-Jamaa, Relief Hendricks must just call the media and inform about the withdrawal of Thapelo Kamanda as a councillor in that city. And I'm told that he's a ward councillor, must resign. the organization must be, the IEC must prepare for by-election, because it can't be only the ANC, Thulasizwe, where we've got the high standard set for the public office bearers, and only other political parties where you have people that have been criminally charged. The man has been charged, he appeared before court, he's out on bail. So the same thing was stepped aside by the African National Congress. We're expecting any other political party to follow.
Does it matter, Lesiba, that the Al-Jamaa says the timing of the arrest is suspicious?
No, it's not about the timing. The allegation has been there since last year. It was just allegations similar to VPS. We were so surprised to see René van der defending, and we're saying all the employees of in government that have been allegations, they must be careful when they appoint them in this office, public office bearers, because this is to show the disrespect to the people of Johannesburg. But this one, the standard has been set by the ANC. Let all the parties in or outside the government of national unity, they must resign. Look what Pulemavi did. He did not resign from public office. He resigned as the member of the ANC National Executive Committee.
All right, Lesiba, let's leave it there. That's Lesiba in Limpopo weighing in on Commander in the city of Joburg. In fact, let me take a voice note on that very theme.
Good Thulasizwe. I'm still wondering, how did Kabelo Commander get himself arrested on a weekend as well? I mean, politicians never get themselves arrested. They usually get arrested in inverted commas on a Monday, and they quickly appear in court only to be released. But here we have Kabelo, who was arrested on a weekend, on a Sunday, and then somehow the magistrate is available on a weekend, and he gets released as well. Man, the perks of being a politician. This is P-Man in Kuruma.
I don't know what to say to that. So I don't know. He didn't get himself arrested, did he? I mean, I don't think he had much to say about that decision. But thank you for that input there on Kabelo Kwamanda and his arrest. At 7:30, let's check in with N Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the family of the late IFP leader Mangosuthu Buthelezi has confirmed the death of his youngest child, Sibuyiselwe Buthelezi. The family says she died in the early hours of this morning. The Basic Education Department says it's closely monitoring the South African Weather Service's inclement weather warning, especially in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. This as matriculants start their final examinations today. And the Gauteng Finance and Economic Development MEC Lebogang Mahile is today expected to visit Boipatong in the Vaal and Naledi in Soweto. He's expected to engage with families and communities that the recent violence related to spaza shops has affected. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. No change at Town Hill. The road to Durban coming into Pietermaritzburg remains closed. Lengthy backlogs for truck traffic all the way back towards Hilton. Motorists will be diverted off as Sadara and join a pretty heavy queue on the old road down into Pietermaritzburg just because of the sheer volume. Going the other way, northbound at Van Riene's, an earlier truck crash still causing a big backlog there over Van Riene's Pass up towards the Van Rienen village area. Joburg smash on the Mike 1 south at Ormonde, and then congestion right through to Parktown. So from Uncle Charlie's up to Parktown past that crash and through the congestion, it's heavy. Then more queues running up through Houghton, Melrose and in towards Grayston Drive. Breakdown on the M1 North near William Mandela, so pretty heavy pressure coming through from Randburg. Lots of lights out all over Bayers Nordia, all over Malabongwe, all over Cedar, all over William Mandela. Those northern suburbs are again under pressure, not only traffic but loads of traffic light faults. Durban, it remains wet, so just give yourself time to get through. 85 mils recorded in the last 24 hours. Set to rain all day today. Plenty of pressure on the Mike 1 out of Chatsworth. That's a crash at Havenside. N2 from Cement Factory through to the Umgena Road's heavy, and a lot of traffic on the M13 Hillcrest down into Pinetown via Fields Hill area. Cape Town Baden Powell Drive closed at Khayelitsha due to sand as well at Coastal Park, which is back in traffic from Strandfontein through to Muizenberg. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning once again. I saw commentary about the T20 World Cup that suggested that perhaps the Proteas women played their final before the final.
Yeah.
That game against Australia, right?
Yes, and they ran out of steam and they had no
Yeah.
response to this attack from New Zealand. But you know what they say? The Proteas women will bounce back. Their middle
Absolutely.
name is resilience.
Absolutely. I love that.
Let's go with that. It was tough, but yeah, we're going to dub the Proteas middle name as resilience here on the morning brief. Well, it was a dream of lifting that ICC, the first ICC Women's T20 World Cup, but that went to New Zealand yesterday. They beat the Proteas women by 32 runs. New Zealand's Amelia Kerr delivered a standout all-round performance, scoring 43 runs and taking 3 wickets to lead her team to victory. Soccer, Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns are set to clash in the quarterfinals of the Carling Knockout Cup, reigniting drama from their thrilling Betway Premiership encounter earlier this season. Now, over the weekend, Chiefs powered past SuperSport United with a 4-0 win, while Sundowns demolished Golden Arrows 5-0, setting the stage for that heated rematch. Fans are in for another high-stakes battle. Chiefs aim to avenge their 2-1 loss to Sundowns. Earlier, the giant killers Magesi FC will take on TS Galaxy, and defending champions Stellenbosch FC face Maruma Gallants. What a weekend in the English Premier League. Major upsets as well as controversial moments. Arsenal's title hopes took a hit after a 2-0 loss to Bournemouth, their first defeat of the season, compounded by yet another red card, this time for William Saliba. Meanwhile, Manchester City narrowly escaped a shock result. They came through 2-1, the final score. And on the other hand, Liverpool continuing their strong start under new manager Ancelotti, overcoming Chelsea 2-1, and that clash took place at Anfield. Motorsport news, Ferrari fans are celebrating a sensational 1-2 finish at the United States Grand Prix, with Charles Leclerc leading the charge in Austin. Leclerc outpaced his teammate Carlos Sainz to take the victory, while drama unfolded behind him between title rivals Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Norris lost his crucial third place after being slapped with a 5-second penalty for a late race overtake on Verstappen, pushing him back to fourth. Now, this gives Verstappen a bigger lead in the championship as we head towards the final race of the season. It was a heartbreak for the Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton, who spun out on lap 2, ending his race early. We've got Charles Leclerc sharing his thoughts after his dominant win in Austin.
I knew that Max would go all in into turn 1. I knew Lando will try and do absolutely everything to defend to Max, and so I went a little bit wider in entry to prepare the exit, and that was a winning bet, which helped me quite a bit for the rest of the race, because then I had free air and we were very, very fast on that first stint. So then it was all about managing the gaps. A lonely race, but I hope we can have other very lonely races like this in the future, because it's a good feeling.
Now, history was made in Cape Town this weekend. Glenrose Straba smashing the South African women's marathon record in her debut over 42.2 kilometre distance. Straba clocked an incredible 2 hours, 22 minutes and 22 seconds, beating Ethiopia's Mare Dibaba by 14 seconds and taking nearly 2 minutes off the previous record set by Gerda Steyn last year. Straba's victory marks the first time a South African woman has won the Cape Town Marathon since 2010, capping off a stellar year for the 29-year-old, who also shattered Ilana Meyer's 10-kilometre record earlier this year. In the men's race, Ethiopia's Abdisa Tola Adere claimed victory in 2 hours, 8 minutes, 16 seconds, with South Africa's Melikaya France finishing fifth. And finally, the International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach has expressed confidence that South Africa could host the first Olympic Games on African soil. During his second visit to the country since assuming leadership of the IOC in 2013, the 70-year-old retired German lawyer highlighted his aspirations for South Africa to host the event. Bach also visited Senegal, the host nation for the 2026 Youth Olympics, and he shared his hopes for the continent in an interview with SABC Sport.
Africa is giving the Olympic movement so many wonderful athletes. Africa is the continent of the youth. Africa is a forward-looking, dynamic continent. And I think this are very important messages for the Olympic movement.
We'll have more sport on the morning brief at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's bring in Tauleng Lechela once again. And Tauleng, the Chief Executive Officer of BHP, visits South Africa, and all of a sudden we are talking about a revived bid for Anglo.
You know, anything will spike up movement in markets, and that's one of the things just sparking up speculation that BHP might be delivering another bid for those Anglo assets. According to reports by the Financial Times, BHP is planning to make another bid to buy out diversified miner Anglo American. This comes after, of course, the CEO and top execs were in the country about 2 weeks ago. They met with government officials and the PIC, which owns about 7% of Anglo, further fueling those takeover speculations. Now, BHP had initially made a bid earlier this year, but that $49 billion bid was ditched after both companies could not come to agreement on terms of the takeover. As part of its initial offer, BHP wanted Anglo to first separate its South African businesses, Anglo Platinum and Kumba Iron Ore. Anglo disagreed, arguing that this would be costly for its current shareholders. Local investors, including the PIC, also did not support the deal, viewing it as a lack of confidence in South Africa. Now, JP Morgan estimated that the deal could cause 80 billion rands to leave South Africa, potentially weakening the rand, mostly because global funds would sell their shares in Amplats and Kumba. Anglo, in turn, has come up with its own restructuring plan, which will streamline its portfolio to focus on copper, iron ore, and crop nutrients. It plans to hold on to Kumba while still unbundling Amplats. Some analysts say BHP will probably return to the table once that unbundling is complete. And according to UK law, where BHP is listed, the miner must wait 6 months before it can launch another takeover bid. That 6-month waiting period coming to an end pretty soon, considering that the initial bid was made in May. So I guess it's just a wait and see game now.
Tell us about Renogen, the producer of both helium and LNG, expecting their losses to widen.
That's right, Thulas. Now, the local onshore gas company expects to slip further into the red. In a trading update, the group predicts its interim loss per share to widen. This from a loss of 30 cents per share that was recorded in the same period last year. The downbeat performance is mainly due to reduced production time for helium and LNG during the commissioning phase, which impacted its revenue. Despite delays in helium production caused by operational issues, Renogen successfully began producing liquid helium in August, establishing South Africa as one of only 8 countries capable of doing so. Although the company's short-term performance has been affected, it remains committed to its long-term strategy of focusing on renewable energy and emerging markets. Now, despite that brighter outlook, investors punished the group as its share price dropped to its lowest level in a month last Friday, down over 5% to just under 10 Rand per share.
All right, just a recap then of the markets here at home in Asia and the United States.
Let's kick things off in Asia. Thulas, markets mostly in positive territory there as traders assessed China's loan prime rate announcement. The policymakers in the world's second largest economy cutting rates again, of course, in an attempt to boost the economy. Major focus is also on Japan. They'll be having their general election taking place at the end of the week. So markets really watching that, or investors rather really watching that. With that, we saw the Shanghai Index up 0.8%, while Japan's Nikkei gains 0.14%. Over in the US, futures are pretty flat following last week's strong finish. Attention shifting to the tech sector as investors eye Alphabet and Amazon's earnings out later this week. Meanwhile, back at home, stocks edging higher with the all-share closing 0.7% higher, boosted by the Resources 10 complex gaining 1.3% last week Friday. In the currency scene, the rand still on shaky ground. It's back above that 1760 mark. It's sitting at 1762 to the dollar.
Did you say Japan's heading to the elections at the end of this week?
Yes.
That was rapid. That was quick, man. I mean, the new Prime Minister, the new leader of the governing party, announced just a few weeks ago and said that they would be going to the elections. I did not expect that it would be this soon. All right, let's leave it there. That's Ntaoleng Lechela there with your business economics and markets update. You can expect one more from Ntaoleng just before the opening of trade on the JSE, and that will be at about 20 to 9 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. I hope you had a great weekend. All right, let's... Yeah. Sorry, Sipho, just slight delay there in getting you on. Let's start in Mozambique. It's that situation that people have been worried about. The election comes and then worrying about the day after and the weeks after the elections. I see now that there have been these murders of opposition figures there.
Tulas, we know that this week we have to have the announcement of the results on the 24th of October, but what happened over the weekend, the killing of the advisor to the presidential candidate, Venancio Mondlane, who was killed, and that has caused even concern that today, we remember we spoke about last week Friday, that there has to be a protest today around election results, that the opposition are now lamenting that there have been some electoral fraud. Now we are waiting for this day of the 24th to know whether Frelimo has now won these elections, which were highly contested, coming from Daniel Chapo, who's a candidate of the ruling party.
And then let's turn our eyes to Sudan and Chad, the relations between the two. Why is the Sudanese finance minister calling for the closure of the border with Chad?
Remember, you said that those borders have to be closed today before tomorrow. It means that you have the rapid support forces that have been using that border to can smuggle their weapons. Now, the Sudanese Minister of Finance is raising this because there's a question of humanitarian aid that has to be been supplied to the people who are suffering in that country since April 2023. Now, this humanitarian aid traffic will assist them when they will now be using the airports now that will be open. But this border, Thulas, it has been a cause of concern. And we know also, Thulas, that even the UN delegation this weekend was not allowed to go to Port Sudan. So you can see that Sudan is also gaining the momentum of humanitarian aid vis-a-vis the closing also of the borders.
Let's talk a bit about the situation around the former deputy president of Kenya, Rigathi Gachagua. He is now talking about concerns for his security.
He is concerned because there was a partial withdrawal to Las, and he says that William Ruto, if anything happens, he will be responsible. And he says that his safety is at risk now. Despite that, we know that last week there was an impeachment by Parliament. They wanted to, on Friday, to put the Interior Minister, Kitore Kindiki, to be the Vice President, but it was kept on hold because there are legal challenges from the Vice President around this impeachment. Ruto yesterday, for the first time, calling for national cohesion to end tribalism, exclusion, but nobody knows whether he was meaning that the issue of the Vice President should be dealt with a sense of sensitivity.
And in Angola, what is the Women's High-Level Forum of Great Lakes region? What's that all about?
Thulas, when you hear the word high-level forum, you must know it's around peace and security issues. Now you have an envoy of the AU, Benita Diop, who had their meeting over this weekend in Angola, in Luanda, to look at the role of women. You remember Resolution 1325 of the UN that talks about the role of women in peace building. And here we are talking of the peace building in the DRC. We are looking at Mozambique. Now, this meeting was important also about the role of women and the economic impact of the conflict on women in the African continent, mostly in the Great Lakes region. So this meeting was very important to us because diplomacy demands that you also have to use the power of women to be the mediators.
And lastly, in your historical archives, Sipho, and this I know for a fact is a subject that is very close to your heart, the international law as it manifests in South Africa. You are taking us back to, in Africa rather, not South Africa. You are taking us back to 21 October 1989. What happened then?
Tulas, that was in Libya when there was a resolution that was adopted by the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, that we call the Gambia or the Banjul Charter, that they have declared that the 21st of October, Tulas, of each year is Africa Human Rights Day. Very sad that you can see, Tulas, many member states, they don't celebrate or observe the African Human Rights Day, but they will rush to observe International Human Rights Day. That has been my concern. Even our Chapter 9 Tulas that I've worked for before, I used to pester them that 21 October, it is important where we are able to reflect on our human rights standard in the African continent. Asante sana Tulas. I hope that they will hear, because it's not just a holiday, Tulas.
Keep making the call. That's the best you can do, making the call. And you're absolutely right. It is an important one, because when we talk, quote unquote, African solutions to African problems, that agency of African leaders, this is exactly what we're talking about, the international law crafted for African circumstances.
Absolutely, Tulas. Asante sana to our listeners, as this week very important to our continent as well.
All right, thank you for that. Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update, just giving you a flavor and a sense of some of the leading stories and occasions that are important to mark across the African continent.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story this morning is the N3 closure at Town Hill. The backlog of trucks is enormous. Back through Hilton and getting back towards the enforced diversion of Sadara now. So major delays. Operation Stack in place for trucks. So you'll go as a trucker down through Sadara, through Hilton, joining the Operation Stack. Nothing getting through past Peter Brown Drive. It's a full closure due to a truck crash. There's a lot of pressure on routes around Hilton and the Sadara exit down on the old road into Pietermaritzburg. So if you're driving a truck, you're going to be stacked up until the road is open. If you're driving a motor vehicle, a light passenger vehicle, you'll just be diverted into some very heavy traffic backlogging. So make sure you've got plenty of time to get through from Howick Hilton down through into Pietermaritzburg. It is a very busy morning. Durban, lots of rain about. Rain in the forecast all day today. Lots of bumps and shunts and crashes all over the show. Some of the big delays include the M13 from Hillcrest into Kloofdown Fields Hill. That's looking very busy this morning. There's also a breakdown on the N2 around Spaghetti Junction, so additional delays running up from the M7 through that and in towards the roadworks at Westwood Mall. The Higginson Highway crash at Havenside still causing big backlogs out of the Chatsworth area, and some flooding on the M4 around the Congella area, both sides. Out of some water there. Joburg, major taxi crash at Buccleuch interchange. So it's badly affecting the Micro 1 coming up from the Woodmead side, but it also looks like it's going to affect you N1 north from Four Ways, ramping onto the N1 Midrand at Buccleuch. Also the N3 coming up from Limbro Park and from Alex. So really big delays. You've got Buccleuch as a destination this morning, and you're going towards the north. It's all very heavily backed up. The Mike 1 extending queues from Boysons right through to Grayston Drive at Santon. Very heavy backlogs there. And the breakdown at Galuli's interchange, N12 and R24 each state. Pretty heavy in from Ekurhuleni side. Cape Town today, Baden-Powell closed at Monwabisi, Khayelitsha, so you'll be diverted around there. There's more sand on Baden-Powell at Coastal Park, so Strandfontein through to Muizenberg is quite slow going as well. Lots of traffic on Marine Drive from Sunningdale all the way to Racecourse Road, and then you queue again after that into the mistiming or unsynchronized lights at Woodbridge Island. Also, just worth a mention while we're in Cape Town, the N7 South is quite heavily backed up this morning from Plattercliff Road down to the Bosman's Dam exit. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, a number of the conversations we've had this morning already exercising your mind. Let's hear from you now. Let's start with this voice note that's about the issue of spaza shops, which is, of course, under the spotlight in the wake of the incidents we have seen recently that have called for more regulation of that sector.
Simelane, good morning. These people that are meant to we hear on the news that they are meant to be visiting, spaza shops. For them to announce that is, as far as I know, is wrong, because then it gives these shop owners a time to clean up, their messes. They should just come in or pitch without announcing, But anyway, this is where we live, in this country. Patrick here, Sibo Makomene. Thank you.
Yeah, I hear you, Patrick. I wonder, though, Patrick, whether this is not deliberate. You know, when you know that you don't have enough numbers to cover everyone and everywhere, you might want to make the announcement so that you just get everyone into a panic, into believing that you are coming for them, but actually you potentially do not have the capacity. I'm not saying that's what's at play. I'm saying that's another possibility. Let's listen now to a few people talking about the Matric exams that get underway today.
Good morning to us. It's Mr. Suleiman. To us, we have been encouraging our kids from time immemorial to do well in the Matric. And millions of them has done well. And if you look at today, there are thousands of Matric students who haven't found job up to today. And this year, another so many thousands are going to be passing. And are they also going to be finding jobs, or are they going to be joining the statistics? Thank you, Mr. Suleiman.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Suleiman. It's actually a concern. It's a big, major concern of our country. The youth dividend not being realized, the potential of youth not being used to its fullest, but rather the ranks of the unemployed swelling. And I believe that is the crisis of our moment right now in the country. Let's listen to this one also on Matric results before we take your calls.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to the SAFM listeners. I just want to wish the class of 2024 Matric all the best during their exam. They must all do their best, and they must understand that a Matric could be their ticket towards their career goal. All the best to them. Sekwanele from Pretoria.
Thank you very much for that. That's a beautiful and positive note to have struck this morning, Sagwanele. And yeah, you echo our sentiments, all of us. You actually voice our sentiments, all of us. All of the best to the class of 2024 as they embark on their Matric exams starting from today. Let's take a few calls. In fact, I want to take a call from Maxwell. Maxwell, Maxwell in Tshwane, you want to reflect on the SACP and the conversation we had earlier on about them potentially standing in the elections independent of the ANC. Good morning to you.
Good morning to us, and congratulations on your job, and thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
To us, when I realized the South African Communist Party, for me, they might be divided in this situation because it's only Mapaila who's calling for these things, and also the Limpopo people. How do they take unilateral decision to divorce the ruling party, to form their own, or to go against this situation? Why they don't engage the ruling party, the ANC, behind the scene, rather than pronouncing that they are thinking of going alone in the election? And I even had
Madam Maxwell, they're saying they have been engaging the ANC. That's what this whole talk of reconfiguration of the alliance has been about. And basically, they are saying we've been engaging them. They don't want to hear us, and therefore maybe it's time for us to think about standing.
The bone of contention here to us is about the government of national unity, remember. And they want to dictate to the ANC what kind of a party they need to go to bed with, including MK party. If you and me, we know the relationship between MK party and the ANC. It's almost the same with the DA. So how do you tell the ruling party how do they do their things, rather than just checking and to be compromising? Because even DA, they are not happy in this government of national unity.
I hear you, Maxwell.
So, absolutely, that's my worry. And my last point to us is about
I've got to move on, Maxwell. Unfortunately, I do have to take other calls, but I thank you for your call this morning. That is Maxwell in Tshwane. They're talking about the SACP and the ANC relationship. Let me take Predit, who is in Durban. Predit, good morning. You want to talk to me about food prices?
Morning, Thulasizwe. Thanks so much for taking my call. Love the show.
Thank you.
I'm in the government sector. Previously, I worked, and it allowed me to work in quite a few rural hospitals around in KZN and Eastern Cape. And I worked in the Alfred and Zoe district. And what I noticed was there's a lot of vacant land that is not being utilized for farming. And the rain we used to get there was so good. And I mean, with these food prices that are going up, why aren't we utilizing this a vast amount of land for farming to help the community? Because the rain was so good when I was in Alfred and Zo. You don't need irrigation. The rain can help you.
The question then becomes, who owns that land? It comes back to that, doesn't it? Because one would assume that perhaps it's state-owned land and perhaps those decisions can easily be made to say, let's use it productively, but it could turn out not to be.
Well, I did have a few students from the university that used to come to the hospital, and I treated them, and I did ask them about farming. And they said it was the community or the tribal land, and it was difficult to get the chief, to allow people to do the farming. Because these young, obviously very smart black children would come from university and would want to start these projects, but they had difficulties with that, with the whole dynamic there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to overcome that, but that was their take on the matter.
Yeah, I hear the point you're making. And in fact, the economist Wandile Slobo has made that point about land that is not utilized optimally to produce food and deal with our situation, our food situation. That's Predit there weighing in on the issue of food prices. Let's take a call from Sandra out in Durban. And Sandra, you want to talk to me about the South African Social Security Agency. I believe this is a follow-through on the conversation we had last week on Friday.
Yes. Thulasizwe Simelane. Good day to you. And I just want to further that by discussing on whether the people that were given, the able bodies over 60, walking disability, have been given, the first batch of people have been given the application forms by the Sassa offices in Phoenix. And the doctor, the district surgeon, has approved for some of them because they are receiving this grant that's not due to them. And what will the Sassa offices do about it?
So you're saying there are people who are receiving this grant that they are not entitled to. You'll remember, Sandy, that on
the lady
Sandra,
returned, the lady called.
Sandy called
I do remember that.
Sandy
and I want to
called
thank her for discussing the first issue, which is correct. With what Sandy says is correct from Sassa, but I want to clarify on those people that are receiving this grant in aid, that are walking disabilities, and it's not due to them, whether they're over 60s, even if it was told that even if they're 90 years old and they're walking, they don't qualify. You have to be a disability patient or wheelchair bound or bedridden to qualify for this.
Yeah. All right. No, thank you for posing that question.
I just want Sandy to clarify from the Durban office, Sandy that called. I thank her for calling to clarify on the people that are already contributing and was passed by the district surgeon of Phoenix Sassa offices.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for calling back once again. That is Sandra out in Durban. It does seem that it may be a conversation that we might need to structure and have a bit more structured conversation around the issue of grants in aid, particularly in the area of KwaZulu-Natal, and questions that are being raised by that caller there. That brings us to 8 a.m. Time for us to check in with the news with Ann Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, daughter of late IFP leader Mangosuthu Buthelezi has died, and with a warning as matriculants start their final examinations. Good morning. The family of the late IFP leader Mangosuthu Buthelezi has confirmed the death of his youngest child, Thulasizwe Buthelezi. The family says she died in the early hours of this morning. Thulasizwe was an IFP member of the National Assembly. She was a member of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation from September 2021 to May this year. The Basic Education Department says it's closely monitoring the South African Weather Service's inclement weather warning, especially in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. This as matriculants start their final examinations today. This year, over 880,000 full-time and part-time candidates will sit for the matric exams across South Africa. About 16,000 students from private schools will sit for the IEB exams. The department's Director General, Hubert Mueli, briefed the media in Pretoria yesterday.
I'm working with colleagues from both provinces, KZN, Eastern Cape, but I'm also liaising with the DG of COGTA so that we remain ready if there's anything that needs to happen to rescue the class of 2024 and make sure that the exams proceed incident-free.
Meanwhile, the Mangaung Metro Municipality in Bloemfontein has urged residents to be cautious on roads and in their homes in light of the South African Weather Service's warning for heavy rains today. Severe thunderstorms are expected to accompany rains that could be in excess of 30 millimeters over the extreme east of the Free State. Rainfall of 40 millimeters is also expected over the province, the northwest and extreme east of the Northern Cape. The weather conditions are expected to lead to localized flooding. Gauteng Finance and Economic Development MEC Lebogang Mahile is today expected to visit Boipatong in the Vaal and Naledi in Soweto. He is expected to engage with families and communities that the recent violence related to spaza shops has affected. Mahile's visit follows residents' looting and closure of foreign-owned spaza shops after allegations of contaminated food being sold in the shops. Residents have accused shop owners of selling expired goods and products. Mahile says the province has reported 207 cases of food poisoning between February and September this year.
I intend to be at the forefront of this rebuilding agenda and will, over the coming days, be visiting affected townships to facilitate meaningful dialogue as we recover from a difficult period in our province. Hence, tomorrow we'll be in Sharpeville and Naledi. I also wish to extend my deepest condolences to the families and loved ones of children who have perished in Gauteng townships over the past year. May their souls rest in perfect peace.
And finally, the widow of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny says she's determined to continue his fight against Vladimir Putin. Yulia Navalny also says she will stand for elections as Russian president when the time is right. Her husband died in February in a penal colony, a settlement in which forced labor and isolation are used to punish criminals. Yulia currently faces arrest if she returns to Russia after being accused of participating in extremism. Yulia, who is publishing her husband's memoir, says he was kept in solitary confinement for longer than normal.
He was tortured and he was starving. And usually the normal practice is punishment just for 2 weeks. And my husband spent there almost 1 year.
Recapping the top story, the family of the late IFP leader Mangosuthu Buthelezi has confirmed the death of his youngest child, Sibuyiselwe Buthelezi. The family says she died in the early hours of this morning. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Outsurance Essential is the perfect insurance match for you and your older car. With Outsurance Essential, you get paid in cash after an accident, so you can choose your own panel beater. And you can also add the Outsurance Motor Warranty Plan, which pays towards the cost of repairing mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get a quote today. Get Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Good idea to avoid the Buccleuch interchange if you're trying to get through to Midrand this morning. It's been quite a bad taxi collision with some injuries there. It's sort of where you link off all the highways onto the N1 North. So you've got a backlog going up into Buccleuch from the Mike 1 from Woodmead, the N3 from Edenvale, and the N1 coming up from Four Ways. So very heavy on all of those highways this morning as you squeeze past that scene on those ramps to turn off the highways and up onto the N1 towards Midrand. Complicating that, that. There's also a crash on the M1 North before you get to William Mandela, so that's heavy from sort of Bayers Nordia territory up through Randburg to Four Ways, and then you're stuck from Four Ways through to Buccleuch into the crash. Also, there's a breakdown at Galuli's, the M12 and R24 routes coming in a heavy. There's a crash going the other way at Galuli's on the M12 eastbound before the R24 split, so some very heavy traffic there. A crash on the Heidelberg Road, or it's N3 North, I beg your pardon, but just before Heidelberg Road, so very heavy traffic coming up the highway from Phosphorus passing Sprayview this morning. Durban, a collision in the rain, N2 North at Mgena Road. Traffic stays bad from the M7. There's also a breakdown in that traffic around Spaghetti Junction and a breakdown on the southbound side as well. So coming from Umgeni down towards 4 level, it's pretty heavy. Everything around Durban also on a go slow this morning because of the significant amount of rain that's falling across the region. No change at Town Hill. The road to Durban stays closed. Big backlogs of trucks which are being stacked and very heavy congestion for motor vehicle drivers from Howick into Sadara and then down the Old Road. There is so much traffic clogging up the Old Road route this morning. Cape Town, a crash going into Khayelitsha on Spine Road, just down by Jeff K. Masamolo. So from the N2, it's pretty heavy. And lengthy queues both ways on the N7 towards Bosmansdam. A crash on Okarpsevek and Komiki Road involving a taxi overturning. Expect some delays there. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, cricket action underway as the Proteas bowl in their first test against Bangladesh. Bangladesh on 60 for the loss of 6 wickets after 26.1 overs. Kagiso Rabada gets his 300 test wicket. And we'll also bring you news from rugby, where the Hollywood Bets Shark coach John Plumtree spoken about the influence of Springbok stars in the team. All this and more at around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 8 on this Monday, we are into the third hour of the morning brief. It's good to have you with us this morning. So a number of conversations that we've already opened up and laid on the table, and feel free to weigh in on some of those as well as those that may be exercising your mind that we have not reflected this morning. Among the conversations we've had, they include, of course, the issue of Matric exams getting underway this morning, the first paper being written by the class of 2024. And all of the best to them and all the support to them. Really, we should all be extending support to them and ensuring that we do everything that we can to help them make it across this key milestone in as far as the schooling career of any young person is concerned. So the exams are underway, but also a moment to reflect on the amount of support or otherwise that we've been able to extend to these young people over the 12 years of their schooling career. Perhaps that could be the issue that you want to reflect on. A bit earlier on, I had a conversation with Alex Mohobetswane Mashilo of the SACP. We were talking about the upcoming review that they are saying they will undertake at their special Congress in December this year. That has to do with whether or not the SACP should finally act on the resolutions it's been taking over many, many Congresses. And I was saying to him all the way back to 2007, the 15th Congress in 2022 actually also had a resolution that said take this conversation forward, and asked their augmented Central Committee to take the conversation forward, which they did last year, but then ended up saying that they will continue to support the ANC in the 2024 elections. Well, it seems a lot of unhappiness has the SACP reflecting a bit more seriously and a bit more vigorously on that issue. Within this hour, among the stories and issues we will be touching upon, we'll be talking about the issue of cybersecurity. And we are hearing that South Africa ranks 14th for the highest average in insurance claims associated with data breaches and cybercrime. So we're getting into the realm of how cybersecurity is no longer just conceptual, but actually has implications for such entities as insurance companies and companies companies that have to claim from insurance based on losses suffered as a result of cybersecurity breaches. Those are some of the conversations on the table and what we have lined up for you. Of course, I'll take your calls throughout the hour. The number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
My business is very stressful. Construction and plumbing, anything can go wrong. The reason I chose Outsurance because they align with my vision with regards to customer service. The fact that they won the award for Best Business Insurance makes me feel like I'm in the right hands.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
16 teams of Mzansi Africa's Elite League are back to the battlefield. Namandla Masha. They all believe ukuthi kuzoba right, kube bright, as they navigate the path to the final. This is the second edition of the Carlin Knockout Cup. Fakugesi. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Ipola Mzansi. The Carlin Knockout Cup, live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Science of Life on SAFM.
At 13 minutes after 8, let's focus on this. South Africa ranks 14th for the highest average in insurance claims associated with data breaches and cybercrime. Cyber claims have been on an upward trend over the past year due to data and privacy breach incidents, and that's according to data from the insurer Allianz Commercial. The insurer says the frequency of large cyber claims in the first 6 months of 2024 was up 14%, while severity increased by 17%. Let's bring into the conversation Zanyiwe Asare, cyber law, public policy and internet governance expert. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So these figures, what do they tell us about cybercrime, its existence and extent of perpetuation in South Africa?
Good morning, and thanks for having me. So this really tells us that it's a reality. It's not a fictitious event. It's not something that just hits big companies. When you see this number, you see more and more people, the everyday average South African being impacted. And this just says, it highlights that, one, we're not doing enough. We've been having the conversation, but ourselves as the individuals and also the big corporates within South Africa are really lagging behind. But I think this number is not just indicative of South Africa. It's a global trend. And there's definitely a huge gap that needs to be filled here.
Where are the failures coming in, Zanyiwe, given the fact that some would say our laws are robust in as far as cybercrime, the Cyber Crimes Act, the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act, and the likes, POPIA. With that network of laws, where are we failing?
Look, as South Africa, we really are the golden child when it comes to the formulation of robust laws. So from that aspect, kudos to us. But when it comes to the application and implementation and also widespreading of the information within these acts, I think that's where we find the gap. So the first one, you asked us where we're failing. The first one would be the dissemination of knowledge. most people don't know what to do to protect themselves. When you look at, where all of this is happening, it's in the cyberspace. The utilization of devices, I don't think, has been adequately taught to people, especially with the developments. That's the first one. The second one, we would say that the actual people behind the scenes, when you look at these data breaches, it's a lot of companies who are not following the Popeye rules and regulations. Like you said, they're well drafted. And you also see a lot of, sort of non-attack related breaches. So what does that mean? How many times do you get a phone call from somebody who's gotten your details, and they tell you that they're offering you something, and you ask them where did they get their details, and with confidence they verify that they got it from a database, one that you did not give consent to, etc. So you just see that there's this culture of not just non-adherence but ignorance to the actual law.
And just the aspect of organizations being hit by cyber crimes and the likes of data breaches and privacy breaches. There's a dynamic that I'd like you to talk to. A lot of people listening to us will be saying, I run a small or medium enterprise, and basically it's all about keeping the overheads low so that I can continue to, operate sustainably, create jobs and the likes. I don't have the luxury of your big, multinationals and other companies on the JSE to be able to deal with this aspect. What would you say to that concern that says, for me to be cyber secure would take quite a bit of resources, and I just don't have those resources?
And look, I think that's a legitimate thought, especially if you haven't deep dived into what does it look like to be cyber secure? What does it look like to have your data privacy laws intact? And I know that there are small firms that are out there, but a lot of this information is actually online. I know it sounds ridiculous, but in the age of information, it's online. And why is this important for an SME? And why is this important for a small business owner? The first one is reputational harm. If I know that when you go to this particular individual, you're not safe, you're not secure. Remember, we've got financial data, we're speaking about your address. We know that there's a lot of violent crimes. There's so much personal data that's out there that can have a direct impact on the individuals. The moment anyone knows that's an association of your company, your SME, you're dead, you're finished. And we don't want that. The second one is just from a revenue generating perspective, that gives you a competitive edge to put on your website or to be proudly saying, we actually have done the work. That in my view is something that gives you the edge compared to other people that are having this conundrum of whether to invest or not. And I think as data privacy and data breaches become something that is a realistic threat that people fully understand, the prices of consultancy is not as high as, in the 2020 period when we just started. So it's really about, if you look at the firms like I used to head back in my day, not too long ago, but those are, you find young people, young, robust techies and lawyers that are trying to find solutions because they are now digital nomads, that this is like secondary to them. So it's no longer a specialized field like it used to be. If anything, it's out there. So it's really about doing your research, like I said, going online, finding what the right package is for your company. It's essential for survival in this day and age.
Lastly, I'm curious to hear your take on government's own preparedness. We were talking about the laws and regulations being in place, but what about government grappling with this as a threat to government itself? In my mind, I have the breaches, the hacks that occurred with the Department of Justice, I think about 2 years ago, Transnet, the issues they faced, and of course, who can forget when the finance minister told delegates at an ANC event that at some point there were attempts to hack the South African Reserve Bank. What's your assessment of government's responsiveness to the threats that it faces?
So I think, the statements you just made now, this is not reality just in South Africa, not just in Africa, but globally. Remember, the cyber criminals are always one step, if not 10, ahead of regulation, ahead of any strategy that you put in place. That's how they survive, So we'll always be playing catch up. But it's good. The fact that we are saying we want to play catch up and we're investing into it. Now, from a government's perspective, I think there's definitely more that can be done. Integration with private sector, ensuring that, that is keeping ahead is really relevant, and it talks to the threats that are being developed by the other side, the black and the grey side of life when it comes to cybersecurity. Now, I think the biggest thing that we need to look at is the personnel. We can have these great laws, we can even have great technological solutions, but if you do not upskill and update, keep up to date rather, the personnel within your cybersecurity functions, even from a government perspective, then you might as well not invest in anything at all. So I think my last one there to answer you is ensure that your personnel are up to date, and also ensure that private sector infusion to ensure that you've strengthened the approach to how you approach the attacks.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. Really valuable. That is Zanyiwe Asare, who is cyber law, public policy, and internet governance expert, weighing in on issues to do with cybersecurity in the country.
The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one Outsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to phone Outsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that will blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quote, and to find out about included benefits like panic assistance that sends the nearest medical or armed response unit to you wherever you may be 24/7. Here's Yusuf.
45 years old from Teigedal, Western Cape. I pay 700 Rand for my Polo 1.6 2021 model. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, definitely get in touch.
Give it a go. SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature will host public hearings on Older Persons Amendment Bill 2002 on the 23 October 2024 in Ngakamudiri Molema District at Moshana Community Hall in Zeerost, in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Goedgevonden Community Hall, Ventersdorp, JB Max Local Municipality, in Dr. Ruth Sogomuti Mompati at Dipudi Community Hall, Dipudi Village, Kagisano Molopo Local Municipality, and in Bojanala District at Kraalhoek Community Hall, Kraalhoek, Moses Kotana Local Municipality. All hearings start at 10.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's crank up the ideas refinery. Let 100 schools of thought contend. Let me take a call from Vuyiswa in Joburg. Vuyiswa, you want to talk to me about spaza shops, and the second issue you want to touch on is the flamboyant funerals. Good morning to you.
Yes, quite right. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Chulas. You know what? With the spaza issues, these brothers, it's not that they don't know that they're doing something wrong. It's unethical. And the Ubuntu philosophy falls out, because if you look at Somalians, your Ethiopians, I'm not xenophobic, the Djibouti, Eritrea. If you sit down with them and ask them about Ubuntu, they don't know, because they don't belong to the Bantu tribes. So what they're doing, what they're after is money.
But there would be an equivalent concept, sorry, Vuiso, but there would be an equivalent concept. They may not call it Ubuntu, but I imagine valuing the other person is something that is there in their own cultures as well.
No, it's not. Look at the genocide that is going in Ethiopia right now. You guys are not even reporting about it. There's a genocide going on in Ethiopia, in their own country for decades, as I said, if not a century, that they've been doing that. So if you come to somebody, we grew up in exile, Chulas. We never did what they're doing. And the other thing is that what is missing is the truth. We're not telling each other the brutal truth. If we sit down, because this is unethical, what is happening, what they're doing.
Sure,
They
I
know
hear you.
it.
I
Yes.
hear you, and I can't take
Now-
away from that. What I would want to caution against when Avuyiswa is a generalization, and I think that's as far as I can take it on this
They
particular
don't
point.
care, Thulas. They
Talk to me
don't
about flamboyant funerals. What do you want to say about that?
Yes, you know, the funerals that we have witnessed, we've been witnessing these funerals for quite a long, from the elite or the ruling class. What are they teaching people on the ground? That's why people go to death for burying a relative. Whereas in Africa, if you go down to history, this thing was done early in the morning with a few people, you know, and the person will be buried, then people come and mourn after this has been done. Now they're taking people to this slavery, you know, that has been going on. You could even see Comrade Novel Mkonyane, how she was wearing and all those things. And, you know, for me, it doesn't make sense. It's creating poverty. On the other side of Ray Macaulay, you're preaching on the pulpit that people shall be, you know, resurrected. Even if they're dead, you know, for the day of judgment. Now he's going to be cremated. So you will see how many people will be cremated.
All right, thank you for that, Vuyiswa. That's Vuyiswa in Joburg there, raising those 2 points that she felt quite strongly and wanted to put on the table. Let me take some of your voice notes. Let's hear on the SACP and their political position.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. There's no way that SACP can survive without the support of the ANC. They are just lying. They must try. They will die. How many support SACP does have?
All right, thank you for that voice note. I would say the SACP will probably come back to you and say, actually, we have quite strong branches. I saw in their 15th National Congress, they had the numbers that they were reflecting. I think if I recall correctly, and I stand to be corrected, they were talking over 300,000 members of the SACP around the country. Remembering that for you to get an election victory, you don't just need to depend on your members, you also draw in some supporters who are not necessarily your members. I'm just putting across what I think the SACP would say to you.
Good morning, Thulas and SAFM listeners. Thulas in Gauteng, it's West. Listen to this. You go to the clinic. You are there maybe for more than 3 hours before you are being attended. But there is no water to flush the toilet. Can you just imagine how does the toilet look? When you finish in the clinic, you go to the private houses next to the clinic and ask for toilets. Thank you. That's a situation, Lucy.
Yeah, that is distressing. And that reflects to that conversation we heard earlier on with the Gauteng City Region Observatory, which was saying that they are noticing that water interruptions are constantly now being ranked highly as a concern for residents of Gauteng that is affecting the quality of life. Let's hear on the Competition Commission. There was that call we talked about a bit earlier on for the Competition Commission to probe why food prices are not following suit when the other indices such as inflation and interest rates are going down.
Thulasizwe, hi. Are you well? This is JCK Kaunda from Sina. Hope you had a safe weekend. Thulasizwe, Competition Commission is failing us gravely. They are failing in their obligations. Since COVID, prices of batteries and tires have skyrocketed by 110%. Competition Commission, where are you? Where are you? We are suffering as the nation because of you. You're not doing your job. Let me rest my case for now. Jesse K. Kaunda from Sina.
All right, thank you for that, Jesse K. That's an interesting one. It would be interesting to talk to the Competition Commission and just hear from their perspectives. Which markets are they watching? I hear you, Jesse K, there mentioning batteries and tires as one of those that need closer scrutiny. At 8:30, let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Basic Education Department says it's aware of potential risks that could compromise the integrity of the 2024 Matric exams, which have started today. The exams will run until the 27th of next month. The family of the late IFP leader Mangosuthu Buthelezi has confirmed the death of his youngest child, Sibuhiselwe Buthelezi. The family says she died in the early hours of this morning. And Hurricane Oscar has made landfall in eastern Cuba, packing winds of nearly 130 kilometers an hour. The island is already without electricity because of the failure of Cuba's power plant on Friday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Major crash inside Buccleuch interchange. A taxi overturning 16 passengers, including a driver, or plus the driver, sustaining injuries ranging from quite serious to fairly moderate, but it is having a major impact on traffic flows this morning. Because it's in the Buccleuch interchange, it has an impact on the Mike 1 North from Woodmead, the N3 from Edenvale, and the N1 from Randburg side. All of those highway routes for connections through Buccleuch onto the M1 North towards Midrand are heavily backed up. Our advice this morning is just to stay away from routes that take you into Buccleuch and get onto some side roads and alternative routes instead. There's also big traffic on the Mike 1 today, all the way coming through from the Boyson side, right through to Grayston Drive. There's no gaps in that traffic. It's absolutely jam-packed even by its own standards. And a crash on the N12R24 eastbound just by the airport split, and that's putting some real pressure coming off the N3 through Galulis for connections to the eastern side, if you like. The Town Hill situation unchanged. The road is closed. Trucks being stacked in an ever-growing backlog of traffic back through Hilton for trucks that are stacked. Motorists being diverted off at Sadara and joining some very heavy traffic, as you can imagine. All the highway traffic being diverted down the old road, so there's a lot of pressure there. Durban, a crash into north before you get to Umgeni Road, so that stays pretty busy. A crash on the N3 outbound at Paradise Valley causing some delays, and there's a lot of rain. It's very heavy around Durban, really poor driving conditions. Please take it easy. Cape Town today, N1 inbound from around N1 City fairly slow, and still some big traffic on the N7 for this time of morning, both ways jamming into the Bosmansdam off-ramp. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. Live cricket action on the go in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, and KG Rabada is seeking to make history.
Oh my God, bowling like that. It's no wonder he's part of the 300.
I can't see, as you can see, my TV is off.
Who didn't pay the light bill? What's going on? Yes, unfortunately, we have to rely on the online results. The Proteas team, you're not missing much. They're currently on lunch. So the score at the moment, incredible, 60-4-6. That's Bangladesh, and that's live there from the latest test happening in Bangladesh. Kagiso Rabada hitting a monumental milestone, claiming his 300 test wicket, and the Proteas seem like they're in control on day one. Rabada leading the attack after removing Bangladesh's Mushfiqur Rahim, currently sitting on 60-6 at lunch. The Proteas will be looking to maintain this grip on the match. Elsewhere, New Zealand beat India by 8 wickets in their first test, took place in Bengaluru of the 3-match test series, recording their first win in India since 1988 after rolling over India in the first innings for a paltry 46 runs. The visitors were already in front in the game. New Zealand scored 402 runs in their first innings to lead by 356 runs. The two teams will clash again in Pune. That's for the second test on Thursday. On to rugby, the Hollywood Bets Shark coach John Plumtree has spoken about the influence of Springbok stars in the team. The Durban-based side was the best squad in the world. They have half of the team filled with Springboks, and they enjoyed a 28-24 victory against the Glasgow Warriors over the weekend. Here's the Sharks coach, John Plumtree.
It's good. Lorenzo, Julius there rubbing shoulders with, Makanyawa. There's lots of examples of that through the week, and that's the bonus of having those experienced players. They help the other younger players around them grow quickly. They learn quickly from them. So, and they get more confidence being around them as well.
Onto motorsport, where Ferrari fans are celebrating a 1-2 finish at the United States Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc leading the charge in Austin. Leclerc outpacing his teammate Carlos Sainz to take victory, while drama unfolded behind them between title rivals Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Norris losing his crucial third place after being slapped with a 5-second penalty for a late race overtake on Verstappen, pushing him back to fourth. Now, this gives Verstappen a bigger lead in the championship as we head towards the final races of the season. Heartbreak for Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton. He spun out on lap 2, ending his race early. Tennis action, Daria Kasatkina fought her good friend Mira Andreeva to win the Ningbo Open title in China. The Russian fifth-seed Kasatkina beat her teenage compatriot Sixlov 4-6, 6-4 in a scrappy encounter. And finally, golf news in a thrilling final that was at the Glendower Golf Club. Robin Williams successfully defended his Fortress Invitational title, finishing with a commanding 3-stroke victory. Williams shot a brilliant 5 under 67, ending the tournament at 22 under par. Despite a gust of wind causing a late bogey on the 18th, the 23-year-old dominated the course, especially on the par 5s, where he birdied all 4 yesterday. Daniel van Tonder finished second at 19 under, while Yurav Premlal and Keenan Davidson tied for third at 15 under par. That's where we leave it for now on the golf course. We'll bring you more sport on the morning brief and here on SAFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And for that, let's turn to Ndauleng Lechela. Ndauleng, good morning to you once again. So you are saying to us and suggesting that from the trends around pricing of food, particularly rice, it would seem that rice may grow in popularity in the country.
That's right. And Thulas, the person I'm most afraid for is my father, because he has pap with all his meals. Now, what we are seeing here is that rising maize prices caused by local drought conditions is making rice a more popular starch option in South Africa. Just last week, South Africa's Crop Estimates Committee lowered the 2023-24 maize harvest to 12.8 million tons, down 2% from last month and 22% from the previous season. This decline in harvest prospects just showing the harsh impact of the drought. In contrast, global rice prices are falling, offering a more affordable alternative. Now, South Africa relies mostly on rice imports, mainly from Thailand and India, and has benefited from the recent softening of global rice prices after a period of high cost. The global rice market stabilized thanks to a good harvest in key producing countries like Thailand, Vietnam, and Pakistan, as well as India recently lifting its export ban on non-basmati rice, with global prices currently around $550 per ton, about 15% lower than last year. South Africans facing the pressure of expensive maize may increasingly start switching to rice. Major food producers like Tiger Brands, that manufactures or makes Ace Maize Meal and Tastic Rice, expects this trend to rise, especially for price-sensitive consumers. But while rice provides temporary relief, the switch may affect the country's balance of trade, as we produce most of our maize meal domestically, but rely fully on rice for imports.
Do you think your dad will be among those that are making the switch, given the high cost of maize? And as you are saying, that makes rice relatively more affordable. Is he going to make the switch?
I don't think so. I think he's going to, stick to his guns and pay that little extra for his buff.
If not, you will subsidize. The president
Don't give him ideas.
We decree that you will subsidize. The president has an initiative to reduce the cost of EVs in Ndauleng. What's that about and how is it being received?
So, Thulas, the local government planning to implement changes to its industrial policy for the automotive sector by expanding incentives and support for new energy vehicle technology, this including hybrids, plug-in hybrids, as well as EVs. Now, these changes aim to accelerate the adoption of greener vehicles through potential tax rebates or subsidies for both manufacturers as well as consumers. Now, at the SA Auto Week conference that took place last week, President Ramaphosa said government is committed to ensuring South Africa remains competitive in the global auto supply chain, particularly as major trading partners shift towards EVs. The government's new policies outlined in the NEV white paper released last December aim to make NEVs more affordable and position South Africa as a future-focused green auto hub. But details on the implementation timeline or exact structure of these incentives have not yet been provided, though more clarity is expected at the upcoming midterm budget, which will be delivered by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana next week, Wednesday. In the meantime, industry leaders see these policies as essential for the adoption of cleaner vehicles. They have expressed support for the government's moves and highlighted the need for South Africa's auto sector to transition to NEVs to avoid being left behind in global production standards.
Lastly, Ntaoling, the markets, Asia has already set the tone for this Monday, but what kind of a trading day are we looking at here at home and in the United States?
So let's start in Asia this time around. Markets making a turn on that front, losing those earlier gains. This, as we've seen traders digesting China's recent interest rate cut. About an hour ago, I said investors are eyeing Japan's election. Apologies, what I meant to say was that investors are awaiting inflation data and monetary policy moves from the Bank of Japan following the election. So markets in that region on track to end the day on a mixed note. That mixed mood most likely to filter through to local markets. And so we could be in for choppy trade on the JSE as markets open at 9 a.m. Local investors awaiting consumer inflation numbers out on Wednesday. That will also have a bit of an impact on the local currency. So a fairly slow start in terms of news on the local front. Zooming in on the currency's performance, it's sitting at 17.63 to the greenback. Finally, over in Wall Street, futures are now mixed, mostly in the red. This ahead of earnings from Alphabet and Amazon.
All right, thank you for that, Ntaoling. Have yourself a great day. That's Ntaoling Lichela. She's been watching all things to do with the economy, business, and the markets here at home and around the world for you over the last 3 hours. You can catch her again tomorrow with more of those updates.
Channel your fearless side on Afternoon Express Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3 when oncologist Dr. Lazan Langewerfen talks about why early detection and regular screening are key to beating breast cancer. We also chat to a radiologist to give us insights on breast cancer in men. Then we hear breast cancer survivor Lauren Juppy's uplifting story. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Did you know the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa is reopening passenger rail lines that were severely affected by infrastructure damage and cable theft? 31 out of 40 priority lines are now fully operational. 266 stations are fully functional in cities across the country. The Gibela Train Factory has manufactured 246 trains, and half of these are already being utilized by PRASA, which has completed 35 million passenger trips across different regions to date. Doing more together, building better infrastructure and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
At 16 minutes to 9, let's flag and highlight this conversation. Prostate cancer remains a silent epidemic that continues to affect men globally. According to the World Health Organization, in 2020, prostate cancer accounted for 14.1% of all cancers diagnosed in men, with over 1.4 million new cases and approximately 375,000 deaths reported worldwide. In this country, prostate cancer is the most diagnosed cancer among men of all races, but black men often find out later with more advanced and aggressive forms of the disease. Let's delve into it then. Andrew Oberholzer is CEO of the Prostate Cancer Foundation of South Africa. Good morning to you, Mr. Oberholzer. Thank you for your time this morning. This is an important conversation. Just give me a sense of the manifestations of prostate cancer as a silent epidemic in our country.
Good morning, and morning to all your listeners, and thank you for the opportunity. The biggest problem we have with prostate cancer is that there are usually no symptoms in the early stages of the disease. And that's the stage where if we catch this disease, we can actually cure it. So that's the reason why we encourage men to go for screening, because if you're not going for screening, what can happen is you start to get symptoms, and often when you get symptoms, it's a sign that the cancer has already spread outside of the prostate. Screening enables us to detect the cancer at an early stage, and that really is the key to being able to cure this disease.
I wonder, Mr. Oberholzer, in terms of the surveys and other data that you glean from time to time, what are the reasons why some men will find out at a later stage and will not readily go in for screening?
So one of the biggest challenges we have, particularly for men who are reliant on public sector facilities, is that there's not easy access to screening. Screening is a simple blood test called a prostate-specific antigen test, or a PSA test, and that we recommend for all black guys and anyone with a history of breast or prostate cancer and a first-degree relative, that they consider that from the age of 40 and then 45 years of age for everybody else. But a lot of men are just not aware of prostate cancer and not aware of the importance of screening for early detection. So what happens then is they generally only seek help when they already have symptoms. And as I say, once this cancer spreads, we call that metastatic prostate cancer, spreads around the body, often to the bones. At that point, we can't cure the disease. We can only slow down the progression of the disease. A lot of men will come in with urinary symptoms, battling to urinate, not being able to urinate at all, having to get up a lot at night. Those symptoms are also similar to the ones that occur with an enlarged prostate. But if you are having those symptoms, that's really a sign that you just need to go and get checked out and have the simple PSA test. It's not a cancer-specific test, but it does tell us there's something wrong within the prostate.
Is there something that should be happening, particularly in the public health sector, that would respond to, the situation where access to screening is not that readily available, particularly in the public sector?
Well, we are trying to work with government to try and prioritize prostate cancer. By 2030, it will be the leading cancer in South Africa. It's also a matter of educating the primary healthcare workers at these facilities not to turn men away, and because a lot of times they'll say, come back when you're having symptoms. So we need to work with them to educate them. We need the government to come up with prostate cancer guidelines and policies and to implement those at these public sector facilities. At the moment, what we are trying to do to make screening more accessible is running a lot of free PSA screening campaigns. We get a lot of support from our member companies, including Hollard through the Daredevil Run, which enables us to do these free screening campaigns, and we encourage men to just keep a check on our Facebook page. We advertise these frequently at different venues throughout the country.
Yeah, in fact, I don't mind if you mention those, because it is that critical of a conversation. If you mention where people can find out more information about the screening that is available.
So if you just Google Prostate Cancer Foundation South Africa, or you go into Facebook, Prostate Cancer SA, or onto our website, it's www.prostatecancerfoundation.co.za. Check for the announcements of where we'll be screening. We're doing some free screening in Pretoria at the Urology Hospital during the month of November, and there will be other venues that will have free screening at as well. So really, that is, avail yourself of that opportunity and just go and have that PSA test. If the PSA is high, then we will refer you on to a urology department. The urologists are our men's health doctors, and they'll investigate further, because if your PSA is high, it doesn't necessarily mean you have prostate cancer. It could be another prostate cancer, another prostate problem, but you need to be checked out by a urologist.
Lastly, Mr. Oberholzer, please juxtapose for us then the impact of late detection against the rate of curability of prostate cancer when detected early.
So when detected early, if we look at how many of those men who are treated in the early stages will be alive after 5 years, it's 98%, which is excellent. If guys come in and they already have advanced disease, metastatic prostate cancer, only 30% of those men will be alive after 5 years. So it's really critical that we catch this cancer in the early stages and treat it.
Sobering numbers, and thank you for sharing your insights with us this morning. That is Andrew Oberholzer, who is CEO of the Prostate Cancer Foundation of South Africa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A couple of very heavy highways around Gauteng this morning, largely due to incidents. One is the N3 north onto the N12 towards the airport. A crash as you split off the N12 onto the R24 Albertina Sisulu Highway. The queue there from Heldenace as you come up the N3 and get through Galulis into that crash. Also a taxi collision with multiple injuries inside the Beclu interchange. So N1 from four ways for connections to the N1 Midrand's heavy. The N3 very bad from Edenvale all the way to that link onto the N3 north. Even the Mike 1 from Woodmead backlogging into the Beclu interchange. So all your big three highways that route through Beclu are really under some pressure. Also the Mike 1 from Parktown up towards Grayston Drive, really heavy this morning. You won't be expecting that this time of morning. Some traffic light issues around the Grayston Drive off-ramp. No change on the N3 towards Durban at Pietermaritzburg. The road remains closed at closed at Town Hill. The only change really is just the enormity of the queue of trucks that are entering Operation Stack. Those trucks now queuing well back to sort of Hilton territory. So if you're driving a truck down to Durban, there's no point going, because you just sit there, and there'll be all sorts of drama once all those trucks are released for sure, because it's wet weather conditions through the region as well. There's a lot of pressure on the alternative routes for motorists as well. They're all clogged with the volume. So from Howick Hilton, as you come off at Sidara, there's a lot of traffic alternative routing into Pietermaritzburg today. Cape Town Baden-Powell Drive closed to Khayelitsha. That's due to sand on the roadway. You'll be diverted off through local routes in Khayelitsha. Also Bosman's Dam Road stays busy down towards Summer Greens from Edgemead. Behind that, the N7 still queuing quite heavily from Goodwood up to Bosman's Dam, and a lot of traffic on the N1 highway, still very busy from Plattercliff Road territory all the way through to the elevated freeway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Myths versus facts. I'm too young to get breast cancer. Many women under age 40 are diagnosed with breast cancer. Men can't get breast cancer. 1 in 922 men have a lifetime risk of breast cancer. I have never had children and can therefore not get breast cancer. Women who haven't had children or only had them after 30 have an increased risk of breast cancer. Breast Cancer Awareness Month on SAFM. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
I mean, we've just come out of conversations centered around mental health awareness in the workplace. A very important conversation, I think, to continue having, because whenever we sort of position mental health conversations, it's always more on the interpersonal, and we never really touch on the professional implications of such.
I think it's very important to remember that not only do we have an ethical responsibility of leadership, we also do have legal obligations when it comes to protecting our team members. We've got a specific responsibility to create a safe working environment for our employees.
Heidi Duvenaghi, who is the Managing Director of AdCorp Professional Services.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's engage a little bit before our time is up. Let's hear from you. I want to take this one voice note that's about the price of food, the concern that was raised earlier on, that it doesn't seem to immediately follow the trend when the other indices are pointing in the right direction?
Thulas, talking about the rice, is the rice being grown in South Africa? If not, why? We don't have soil to grow the rice, to plant the rice on. What I never heard when it comes to farming, talking about the growing of rice, planting of rice.
Yeah, I agree with you. And unfortunately, I have absolutely no knowledge in terms of the whether or not our soil is conducive for the growing of rice. But it's an interesting point that you make about that. Let's hear one on the issue of spaza shops and inspections to ensure compliance.
Thulas, regarding the spaza shop issue in South Africa, I don't know why our government, what is blocking him from saying that no foreign nation should be selling food to the public, especially if you have not been trained on food handling, IPC, inspection control policy, such things, environmental. These guys are messing up the environment. It's dirty where they're selling. Honestly, it's put our citizen at risk, as you can see. Thank you, Skitton Marisbeck.
Yeah, I hear the point you make. I suspect, though, that any policy position that would decree that no foreign national should be selling food to the public would quickly run into legal problems. Just my suspicion that perhaps it might be a matter of enforcing the food standards across the board, no matter who is doing the selling of the food. Let me take a voice note on the issue of Kabelo Kwamanda and his arrest.
Thanks to us and the SFM listeners. It's Sondi here in the Eastern Cape. I just need to correct the other voice message. And Kwamanda is not that he got a special treatment. There are magistrates and judges on standby over weekends. That's why sometimes even drivers, when they get arrested and appear before the magistrates, they are able then to get to be released on bail because of there is such offer available magistrates who are on standby.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. That is the legal position, and I have absolutely nothing to add. Thank you for highlighting that. Lastly, let me take this one on the Proteas, coming so close, but not really getting to clinch the T20 World Cup, but we remain quite proud as South Africans. Let me hear what you had to say about that.
Morning, Thulasizwe. Why should we sing praise when a team is lost? The Proteas women team lost. Period. They lost. New Zealand won. We must not sing praise and whatever. There is no half win or half what. They lost. They lost. They must pull up their socks. They lost. That is it. Period.
I don't know. I mean, the performance, I guess what I was talking about is overall in the entirety of the competition, being able to deal so decisively with Australia, for example, was no mean feat. It's basically celebrating the way that they performed, because in sport you will always win or lose, but how did you conduct and carry yourself? Let me take a call from Gore this morning. Gore, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about the SACP?
Yes. I think Solima Paila and SACP, they are not fair to themselves. Remember, they were the people who were crying to see Zuma's back as soon as possible. Now Zuma has gone out. They want ANC now to go with MK. And it is not fair. The same person you didn't want and didn't trust. How do you go with that in the party? I think most of us are very happy with the GNU because we want our thieving, corrupt, and incompetent ANC comrades to have someone to watch them over their back. And the SACP must know it doesn't have constituency. It's only like the Indians, with the chiefs without Indians, because they don't have constituency. They stood election at Meti Maholo. They were shown that they don't have membership, and they can never stand alone without ANC because they are nobody. So the sooner they come to term with this, the better.
So you are saying the alternative configuration that the likes of Solima Paela have been saying, that rather than going with the DA and the Freedom Front Plus in this government of national unity grand coalition, you should have gone with left-leaning parties and including the MK in that. You are saying that's a no-go area.
is a no-go area. You cannot encourage people to split and break away from your party to come and sell you the votes at the back, because you're encouraging others to do the same tomorrow.
All right, Gore, we've heard you this morning. Thank you so much there. That is Gore in Tshwane talking about the SACP. And that brings us to the end of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you so much for staying with us over the last 3 hours and for listening. And thanks to the team that put it all together. The Talking Point with Kathy Mohlahlana is up next here on SAFM, and that's coming up after the news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, readiness to administer 2024 Matric examinations and Ramaphosa to travel to Russia for BRICS summit. Good morning. The Basic Education Department says it's aware of potential risks that could compromise the integrity of the 2024 Matric exams, which have started today. The exams, which will include practicals, will run until the 28th of next month. The department's Minister Siviwe Hwahube says they are working with the National Joint Operational Centre to ensure the smooth running of the exams. She briefed the media in Pretoria yesterday.
In addition to security measures, as I have mentioned before, we are closely collaborating with the National Joint Operations Committee and the Provincial Joint Operations Committees, so the NAT drugs and the PROV drugs, to ensure that security is always maintained. These partnerships will make sure that will help us manage any emerging risks, and we will be able to respond swiftly to any threats that may be able to arise.
114 centres in KwaZulu-Natal have been identified as high-risk places for group copying during the Matric exams, which have started today. This follows quality assurance body Umalusi's investigation last year. It flagged 763 cases of group copying in the province. National Professional Teachers Organisation of South Africa's Provincial Chief Executive, Therona Moodley, says they are playing an oversight role.
It's so unfortunate because the consequences of group copying has an impact on the teachers who were complicit in the group copying as well as those learners. Now, we can never tell what has gone wrong. The only thing we can do is learn from history and don't repeat those mistakes. So the department has identified hotspots, as we call it, and those schools or examination centres that have had repeated irregularities, the department has taken over the administration of those exam centres.
The family of the late IFP leader Mangosuthu Buthelezi has confirmed the death of his youngest child, Sibuyiselwe Buthelezi. The family says she died in the early hours of this morning. Sibuyiselwe was an IFP member of the National Assembly. She was a member of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation from September 2021 to May this year. President Cyril Ramaphosa will today travel to Russia to attend a BRICS summit. Ramaphosa and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin will also hold a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the summit. Sophie Mukwena reports.
This will be the first BRICS summit since the expansion of the bloc. The group covers 43% of the world's population and 27% of the global GDP. President Vladimir Putin will use the summit to promote Russia. He has challenged members of BRICS to look at using national currencies when trading with each other.
And finally, Hurricane Oscar has made landfall in eastern Cuba, packing winds of nearly 130 kilometers an hour. The island is already without electricity because of the failure of Cuba's power plant on Friday. The BBC's Mimi Swabi has the details.
Meteorologists in Cuba have warned of a really serious situation in that eastern area where the hurricane's path is crossing over. They've already said that thousands of people were already without power and communications in the hit area, and that is causing a huge concern. Now, Cuba has a strong record of dealing with hurricanes. It has a strong civil defence and a large network of shelters across the area. However, it's that lack of communication, and with information being scarcely available, many Cubans are metaphorically and literally in the dark about this hurricane.
Recapping the top story, the Basic Education Department says it's aware of potential risks that could compromise the integrity of the 2024 Matric exams, which have started today. The exams, which will include practicals, will run until the 28th of next month. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and R1 million liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS car to 43187.
#SAFM Talking Point.
The reality is that 90% of South Africans don't save enough for retirement. This National Seniors Month, why not be part of the 10% who do? Choose an interest rate of up to 11.7% after 60 months with a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account. Anyone 55 and over can open one on the Money app in less than 2 minutes. Go to nedbank.co.za for more info. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
With Outsurance Essential, you can protect your older car and your wallet. Get up to R1 million liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to R1 million. Go to get a quote today. Get Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Licensed insurer in FSP, T's and C's, and information online.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Think of the following statement. Poverty is when large efforts produce small results. Wealth is when small efforts produce large results. Understanding this is, in fact, the essence of productivity. You see, the word productivity is a grammatical construct of two words. The first word is produce, and the second word is activity. So there are two things here. Produce and activity. So we could easily say that productivity is the wise selection, integration, and execution of results-producing activities. What this means is, if your activities do not produce results, yes, you are active, but not productive. In other words, for you to make sure that you are productive, you must ensure that your activities produce desired results. Now, we know that there are many people who are very active, very busy with other people's businesses, but when you check at the end of the day, there are no results. These people are in business with a Y and not in business with an I. So I want to urge you to make sure that before you act, you need to ask the question, will these activities produce results? So you wisely select them and integrate them and then implement them or execute them. You see, activities cost us something. Whether they cost us energy, they cost us time, they cost us money, or they cost us emotion or some effort, but activities cost us something. When you pick up the phone to phone someone, it costs you something. When you go to a meeting, it costs you something. Whatever you do, whatever activity you engage in, it will cost you something. But interestingly, results earn us something. Whether they earn us money, whether they earn us fulfillment, whether they earn us some kind of rewards, results earn us something. In other words, results bring some income, whilst activities, they incur some expenses. So the secret here is that the activities must cost you less than what you get from your results. And that's really the secret of it all. And that is why you need to make sure that you engage in small efforts that will produce large results.
That is the late Dr. John Tibani. He was a medical consultant, a leadership advisor, and also a successful author, kicking us off on the talking point this morning. Yes, of course, it is the open line. We are going to get into the open line shortly. Welcome to the show. I trust you've all had a good and restful weekend and are ready to tackle the week that lies ahead. Of course, if regardless of where you are in the country this morning, I would strongly urge you, please try and check on what the weather in your area is going to be like. We know that the South African Weather Service has issued those weather warnings in particular for 6 provinces. But I would say just check, especially if you're going to be traveling to, make sure you know what the weather in the areas that you might be traveling into is expected to be. Well, coming up on the show today, we will, as always, kick it off with the open line, and I will be taking your calls and getting your views for the National Round Table. And remember, you have the opportunity to raise whatever matter you may want to put on the national agenda. There's quite a lot that we can, of course, touch on coming out of the weekend. It was quite a busy weekend. We had the funeral services of the late Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, and, of course, the late Rema leader as well, who contributed significantly to South Africa, Ray Macaulay. That took place over the weekend. Coming hot of the heels of Friday, of course, was news of the arrest of the former Johannesburg Mayor Kabelo Gwamanda. Certainly not surprised that this matter is being brought up again. If you can recall, at the time that Kabelo Gwamanda was appointed, or as when he was nominated to the position of mayor, these allegations about him having been involved in a Ponzi scheme of sort all the way back in 2011 and in 2012, that's when they surfaced. And there seemed to be a number of residents from Soweto who were still highly disgruntled by that entire situation. They tried to raise their concerns with his party. They tried to raise their concerns with the city of Johannesburg, but all those were ignored. You know, it seemed that it was merely confined to being gossip. The mayor himself said, he had nothing to answer to. And it seems that is not really the case now, given the fact that he was arrested on Friday after handing himself over to the police. But guess what? Despite the charge that he's facing, he remains the MMC for Community Development in the city of Johannesburg. And again, it comes back to the issue of ethical leadership in our society, the consciousness of leadership, right? How are you still going to be a public servant and represent the interests of the public when you are facing a charge? The key allegation is that you fleeced members of the public of their monies, and you have no problem still continuing in the job as a public servant. Surely at some point, it has to be about the individuals and what we see as the moral obligation that we have to members of society. I mean, the ironies of this particular matter are incredulous. So his party says they won't be taking him anywhere. So he remains put in his position until further notice. And that's just, I guess, another day in our country. So those are some of the stories that I'm more than happy to take your views on. Coming up on the show in the second hour, we're going to focus on the increase in gun violence in particular, and try to understand what is driving these high levels of gun violence, but also what is driving the proliferation of guns in our society. We've put together a panel of experts that really are knowledgeable in this particular space, and hopefully they'll be able to share insights with us that can help us try and make sense of these killings, but also where is it that government needs to be looking in finding solutions. And then the final hour of the show, we're going to look at the informal economy, but ask the question around whether having a digital identity can transform the informal economy. We know that in our informal sector, so many people just trade using cash. They don't really have, their businesses don't have an online presence. But if you are to change that, so if you are to create more access to credit and create more access to digital profiles for these informal businesses, could we see then more and more of them being able to transform and becoming formalized as a result of that access? It's a topic that we'll be exploring in the final hour for the show. For now, though, it is the open line. You set the agenda. It's your national round table. I'm taking your calls. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
What a day. Time for that face mask. Leave the face mask on for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? That's not even enough time for it to work. I can't even send an email in 2 minutes or make a cup of coffee.
With Santam, 2 minutes is enough to insure your car online. When you're fully protected with the expert insurer, you're free to live in the moment, not in the worry. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
Good morning, Kitty. I'm Tagata in Cape Town. From the parties that are in the GNU and those who are not in the GNU, I know they were invited by the president to join the GNU so that we can take the South African citizens forward, because there was no outright majority that was reached in the 29th May elections. These parties, they said there is nothing that is done by this GNU. My question is, what is it that they were expecting from the GNU in these 100 days? But we, the people in the communities, we can see what the GNU is doing, especially on the side of crime intervention, because what is happening in the Eastern Cape at least is making us smile, though, because of the Criminal Justice Act and the defending of the criminals, they are not like that's successful, because there are those interferences from the human rights, but they are doing something. Thanks, Takatai.
Good morning, Kathy. It's Robert Ellen Jimstein. I think the government must send the inspectors to all the foreign shop nationals, because in the whole country, because they must not check by one, but they must make a initiative to inspect every shop now, because once and for all, it will be a massacre that will be happen, because those we don't know about how long the food will stay in the shelf, or how long it's expired. So it will cause a strategy in our country. I thank you.
Kathy Mohlahlana on SAFM. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Yeah, well, of course, the issue of food poisoning quite big right now, following the incidents that we have seen in the last couple of weeks that have been quite alarming, I would say, because you've had quite a number of learners being admitted to hospital or suffering from food poisoning at scale. And I don't think that the labour inspector should be sent only to the foreign-owned shops. I think that they must be sent across the board. They must do their work. They must do their work across the board. Because once we begin to say that we think it's coming out of here and not out of there, we could well be shortchanging ourselves in terms of what we may be able to uncover during the processes of those inspections. Yeah, in terms of the GNU, did you see that matters of the GNU were also I don't know if up for debate is the right way to put it, but certainly at the funeral of the late Minister Tito Mboweni, the question of the government of national unity came up quite a lot. You had a few speakers that, of course, touched on, the GNU and left, I suppose, in my mind, left us asking questions about whether or not he actually supported the efforts of the decision rather by his party to form this government of national unity. I think there's been a lot more said about it post the funeral, but certainly the questions around this are going to continue. I think one must expect it to last for as long as you have a GNU, simply because the tripartite alliance itself, there is no unanimity around whether this was the right decision or even the best decision to take. And so as long as those questions remain, the debate around GNU, I think, are going to continue. Let me go to Bonginkosi Matikizela. You're in Cape Town. Good morning.
Kathy, good morning, and good morning to the listeners. It's exactly what I want to talk about, the GNU and its performance thus far.
Oh, is this the Bonginkosi Matikizela? Oh, I'm half asleep this morning.
Obviously, 100 days is a very short time to make any determination whether things are being done, but we can certainly see the progress, and there's a lot of enthusiasm in the country about the GNU. There are those, of course, who are obsessed with the race and inclusion of the day in the GNU, and those people are not raising any issues of substance besides being obsessed with race. And quite frankly, people like Solima Paila, I think you guys are giving this guy too much airtime. This guy has never contested elections. His party has never contested elections. And therefore, it is unhappy with the GNU. He must just summon his ministers to walk out of the executive and contest elections as the SACP. From where we are sitting, we see some very positives. We've seen what is happening in the Home Affairs, where the visa applications and permits were really addressed and cut into half in a space of few weeks. We can see the Public Works Department is working tirelessly to expose corruptions and also put measures in place on infrastructure programs. I mean, I can go on and on.
So Bonginkosi, I don't want to disappoint you, right? And you started well by saying that 100 days is not a long time for there to be, really significant markers of improvement for one to look at. Public works and exposing corruption that is there. My understanding is that those reports that are currently being publicized are reports that were conducted even before the formation of the GNU?
Well, but it's the same thing with having a plan. I mean, you can have a good plan. If you don't implement it, it's just a good plan. So even if those... And then, what we are talking about that are the exposés, Katie, because we know that many people always knew what is happening in public works, for example, but nobody came out and told us what was happening. So we have to praise, the minister for being upfront.
Look, of course, transparency must be welcomed, absolutely, especially in the public service. But the point that I'm making is that work was taking place and in some instances concluded anyway. Yes, we can have a debate about whether or not some of the reports would be as publicized as they are currently. But there is, of course, an interest, even for the current minister, in making those reports public. And so... for me, progress and PR and, knowing how to work the PR machine, those are not the same things. So I agree with you with Home Affairs that, yes, the visa backlog issue, that is one that can be pointed to as real progress because, they've been concerns and people have been complaining, but those are now being fast-tracked. But
absolutely,
what other step of real progress do you think the GNU can point to?
Well, a number of them. I mean, there's a new energy in fighting crime, Katie, and we can see that. The fact that you have different parties in the GNU has created a healthy competition that benefits the public, and I think we must acknowledge that.
Okay.
So that is what is happening. As I said, it's still early days, but those who want to kill it, for frivolous reasons like Solima Paila, I mean, they must really, wake up and smell the coffee.
Okay.
Because it's really bizarre that they keep on mentioning that the ANC should have coalesced towards the parties that are black. I mean, for 30 years, the challenges, especially unemployment, inequality, poverty, has been persisting. Under the same alliance that wants now to keep the status quo. It makes absolutely no sense.
Okay, Bonginkosi, we'll leave it there. I guess the test of the GNU will be to see whether there are any significant improvements with regard to those markers, right? And the debate is absolutely open. Yes, you might not disagree, you might not agree with Solima Paila and the SACP's views, but as they speak, they don't represent just themselves. They represent a constituency within the alliance that feels exactly that way. John, you're in Davidton. Good morning.
Yeah, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, you see, South Africans, we really make big problem for ourselves. Even things that can be solved easily, we make it so difficult. When it comes to spaza shops, there are very simple, basic things that we can do. The fact that these people are coming here illegally, foreigners, and have a business, and also sell illegal or poisonous things, can't we say, if we get one, first we check the food, we check your legality, and deal with that. Also, there's the issue of tax. They don't pay tax. This thing will come 20 years or 15 years. Now they can tackle these things together to say, how much tax are you paying? Surely it's very... Look at the public servant. Let me take a teacher and a policeman. How much does a teacher earn and how much a police earn, and still they get tax, South African citizens. These people, how much do they make a month and still not pay tax? Now we are not told whether the people that the things are checking whether they expired or not. Who is the owner? Is he legal? Is he paying tax? All those things are not mentioned. And really, this is very, very difficult. They want to tackle things one by one when they can have the opportunity to make sure that these things are fixed once and for all. And why do these people want to be so, police? If they know that, this food, I was in Davidson yesterday in the morning. I was shocked. I found small kids, they're just toddlers. They're getting into this container shop. They came out with some sweets and everything. You see, if the food is not good, they're too young. They can easily die. But I went into the shop. Deliberately went into the shop. Look, what I saw there, it's really shocking. And yet there's so much talk about what is happening. Why can't we help ourselves?
What did you see, John?
Oh, it's horrible. Firstly, you could see that the people are sleeping.
John, let me do this. I'm going to put you on pause. It's 9:30. Let me take the latest headlines. We'll continue with the open line on the other side of this.
Good morning. In the headlines, the Basic Education Minister Siviwe Hwahube and a Gauteng counterpart Matome Chilwane have visited the Shoshanguve East Secondary School in northern Pretoria to encourage learners as they start writing the matric exams. Some South Africans have taken to social media to pay tribute to the youngest child of the late IFP leader and founder, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, and a survivor of the Hamas attack on Israel on October the 7th has killed herself on her 22nd birthday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
For years, Outsurance has been saying they'll save you money on your car insurance, or you can ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand cash if they don't. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
I was not happy with what I was paying. I heard about the 500 Rand from Outsurance, but they give me lesser amount for my car. I'm paying 523 Rand on my 2013 and IX35.
So here's how it works. SMS out to 30754. We'll give you a no-obligation car insurance quote. If the quote is less than you're currently paying, you'll end up saving money on your car insurance every month. And if it's more than you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. And if you've been with the same insurer and claim free for 3 years or more, tell us you want 1,500 Rand.
Give Outsurance a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
The days on Banyana Banyana are meeting for the very first time. The 12th world-ranked women's national team want to triumph on home soil. However, African champions have a different notion in mind. They want to be the victors on foreign ground. Europe clashes with Africa. This is the international friendly, red and white versus green and gold. Catch the breathtaking clash between Denmark and South Africa on Friday, 25 October at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
You're listening to The Talking Point. We continue leading the conversation on the open line this morning. The number to dial 086 000 2032, and of course on the WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107 is where I'll be taking your voice notes and your text messages. John in Davidton, you of course had called in to raise the issue of expiry dates of food, and you told us about the experience that you had going into a spaza shop this weekend. You went into the container, John, and you say what you saw was horrific. Tell us, what exactly did you see?
Yeah, when I got inside, because I saw these small kids coming, they were, eating some sweets and these, ice cream, in a plastic. So I'm a public servant, a principal. So I was just interested in saying, do these people who sell these things, the spaza shop owners, do they listen to radio? Do they get into the conversation that we have with you? So that they can, it shows that they don't even listen, they don't care about what is happening. So I got into the shop and I saw some guys, whether these for spaza shop owners, I had some people just to say, I wanted to take a picture of what I saw, but I realized I may endanger myself. So I looked at what is happening in the shop. It's really good. I just wanted to say I want a fish. They said they don't have, but you can see that the owners are sleeping there. The spaza shop, it's a really it's horrible. You understand, and they can see that you wondering what is happening there. Then the kids went out. I stayed there for a long time, a little bit, and thought the guys who are around there will move out so that I can engage with them. Then I decided not to do so. Kathy, we really don't care about ourselves. South Africans, I don't know how good do we want to look for these people to respect. The fact that they are not inspected, give them the idea that they can do anything, because there's nothing that's happening.
Okay.
And again, when you get into Davidton, I wonder whether you know it. At the entrance of Davidton, yesterday, there were some robots that had been cut, lying down. They took all the wires there. Are you telling me, Casey, that our intelligence is unable to one day just get one person to say we want to make an example of them? They're vandalizing. And again, to stop this thing, we need to go to using our intelligence to get where they manufacture this thing.
Okay,
because
John.
They don't buy from where Pick and Pay buys and whatever. They've got their own laboratory where they're doing this thing.
Okay, John.
Nobody tells them. Yeah?
We're going to have to leave it there with you for this morning. As you heard, quite detailed there in terms of his experience. And the thing is, this is what we see in our communities, right? So when you hear the reporting of food poisoning that has taken place, don't think that it's happening sort of far away from you, because it could well be the container shop that's in your street that becomes the next point of focus. So as parents, as guardians, we all just need to be that much more alert and awake to the threat that is looming. James, you're in Johannesburg. Good morning.
Morning, Casey. How are you?
Good. Go for it, James.
People cannot tell us, Casey, that 100 days is a mark to evaluate whether or not we're going forward. And then when we begin at the problem, we're told that it's in early days. For me, those are contradictions in terms. You cannot call us and celebrate 100 days of GNU and say that no, but we cannot be critical because, it is, what is the word that we use? It is early days. I don't agree with that, GNU, Casey, it is founded on very serious contradictions. And then Sorima Pala's argument for me, it is very much logical and sane, I'll point 2 points, Number one, Casey, how many black people can afford medical aid? how many black people can afford medical aid in such massive unemployment? Do you understand? Of all the political parties, the principal in the GNU, which is the DA, KP, it is in opposition to NHI. Am I wrong? Kathy?
I'm listening to you, James.
Yes. They are very much vehemently opposed to GNI. Is that not an ideological contradiction? It's an ideological contradiction. Number two, we know that Afrikaans was used as a barrier to exclude black people from school, from getting proper education. Do you understand? And we know that black people have no access to education. And then who's opposing the Bella Bill? Is the DA. Is that not an ideological contradiction? It's a very serious ideological contradiction. So I don't understand why people are not understanding Solima Pyle and what he's talking about. Because the GNU is a marriage of convenience. Casey, I can point to the so-called success of the GNU. It is load shedding. But load shedding, it cannot, the capping of the load shedding, it cannot be regarded as a success. Because they're not supposed to be there in the first place, to understand. And then number two is what? I think this load shedding, I forgot the other 2 points, because I'm in a hurry. I don't want to waste your time. But lastly, on my point, Kitty, when you look at, how the GNU is going on, it has never addressed the fundamentals. Look at crime. Crime hasn't been stopped. I think crime is going on. We are told that if you drive a certain make of a car between 3 and 12 o'clock, we are likely to be hijacked. I think all of us in South Africa were scared. When it's 4 o'clock, we're all driving home, to understand. And then you look at the Minister of Home Affairs. He's all over. When I listen to that guy speak, I don't hear him talking about foreign affairs issue. He's talking about tourism. And I'm very suspicious of the angle that he's taking. He's talking about creating of jobs, you understand? But the very same DA, when the ANC and other organized progressive party says that no, but we can use parastatals to create jobs, they are refusing. So all I'm saying is, for me, Solima Pyle and Panyaza Lesufi, they are not dropping the ball. We cannot be fooled by guys from the DA who want to come and tell us GNU is not weak so far. They merely slightly corrected the damages that were done by the ANC, like your what is this thing of electricity?
All right.
Yeah. So please, people who are criticizing Solima Pyle, they need to listen to him attentively. The guy is hands-on. He hasn't dropped the ball. He knew why black people are involved in the struggle, to understand. If the two fundamentals that I've just mentioned of the NHI and then access to education should make people to think again before they bash him without any valid argument. Thank you.
All right. James out in Johannesburg, giving his view on the GNU. I wonder, do you think that much of this public debate would be raging to the level that it is if the ANC, and if they had not held that event of celebrating 100 days of GNU? What role do you think that debate has had that event has had in bringing to the fore this debate around either the failure or the success of the GNU? Is it working? Should it even have happened in the first place? Was it ill-conceived for that event to take place in the first instance? Let me take these voice notes responding to one, to Bonginkosi, who called in earlier.
Morning, Kathy. I just want to remind Bonginkosi Madikizela that his party, the DA, didn't succeed in bringing the ANC to below 50%. They are just benefiting from what Jacob Zuma did. It's Jacob Zuma who brought the ANC to below 50%. Thank you.
A very good morning to you, Kathy, and the wonderful team. I think 100 days of GNU is very short to question service delivery. But on the same breath, it's imperative to applaud the work of ministers in the GNU in exposing corruption and money laundering in certain departments. And I would also like to encourage Solima Pyle to summon his ministers from the GNU and subsequent to that stand in in the next elections, starting from local government elections in 2026. I thank you, Lotta Emonti.
Let me go to Charlie now. You're in Koffiefontein. Good morning. Hello, Charlie. All right, it looks like we've lost Charlie on the line. Lala, you're in Polokwane. Good morning.
Good morning, Vesikati. When we finished talking last week on Thursday about this issue of food poisoning, I quoted to you a scripture which says, "My people are perishing because of lack of knowledge." And that's what is basically happening. I heard John this morning when he was talking to you. He also mentioned this similar thing, that the other radio stations are not there like the way we are talking on SAFM. People are still not getting this information about what's happening with this food that we buy in the barber shop. That's the biggest problem. But I want to take you backwards. I'm not sure if you remember, more than 10 years ago, I think in 2013, there was a scandal, or there was the rumors that the red meat that we buy from the butcheries is also having some traces of some donkey meat. I don't know if you remember that. If you can remember that, if the government was able to get into the bottom of that matter and solve it by going straight to those people who are producing the meat, and they were able to eliminate that problem, even this one, they can be able to eliminate it. The reason why we are having this problem of food poisoning even in the schools is because where these guys who have been given the contracts to supply the schools with the food, they are also buying from the same areas where these Indian guys are buying from. But when they were quoting these people, they were not indicating to the government that they will be buying from those areas where these Indians are buying from. But the days when they are supposed to provide, they go back to those warehouses that are owned by the Pakistani people because they are very cheap. But I think the government can be able to get to the bottom of this by starting to investigate where are these food produced from. And they go into the factories, they inspect the factories, they try to see what are there in their ingredients. You'll remember 7 years ago, one MEC of economic development there in Gauteng went in a factory in JB's town, and she found a multitude, I can't say multitude, but a lot of products which were marked to be Robertson spices, which were fake Robertson spices. And they were able to close that gap. But still, there are still people who are producing that at the moment because our government, our officials are sleeping. I'm still repeating what I said last week. Our consumer protection, the National Consumer Commission is not doing its work. It must wake up and start doing the work, go into the factories, start investigating. Okay. Where are these products coming from? Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Lala, in Polokwane. I also wonder if there isn't an opportunity for the Department of Education as well to get involved. It seems like you need a campaign too, because this is where young people are, right? They are on school premises. And if you have a coordinated campaign that also aims to educate them about some of the dangers around the food that they might be buying, what they need to look out for, that could also be the solution to this particular problem, or at least it could help, at least in protecting the lives of these young people. Lirotodi, you're in Tembisa. Good morning.
Good. How are you?
Good, Lirotodi. Go for it.
Yes, good. I'm sick and tired of being told false stories by South African politicians always. Now, here it was SADC observers involving ANC in Mozambique, where their mandate is always to protect people so-called liberation movement. So, Nobura Mokonyane was addressing us from Mozambique after they came from Mozambique, saying everything has gone right, election has been going right. Immediately after she said so, here, 2 opposition party leaders have been gunned down in Mozambique, where normally in our region, opposition leaders and followers, they don't enjoy peace. Now, Mnangagwa is the person who is causing this political violence in our region, because each and everyone in our region, Kasi, who want to rig election, they engage Mnangagwa. Because these 2 guys who have been gunned down, they were vocally saying they're going to protest because it was election riggers. Now, here was the story. The outgoing president of Mozambique, Philip Nyusi, engaged Mnangagwa. What must we do when it is this? Mnangagwa told them the solution is to kill them.
You know, Lerotodi, what also concerned me about these killings, as you've highlighted in Mozambique, was the police's response to what happened in the aftermath of that, where the allegation is that all those that had taken recordings on their phones were targeted, their phones were destroyed, that the police were intimidating them. So there does seem to be an attempt to control information and how information is distributed even around these killings.
Look, Cassie, other countries are different to South Africa. So those police and everybody for security or for enforcement, they are always captured by the ruling party. They can only protect the president or the ruling party. They can only give the false information. That's it. They can't tell us the truth. The police in our region, they always protect the ruling party. Look now, let me tell you, like I was complaining about we completely don't want SADC observers in our election in the region. Because now, and again, October 30 is election in Botswana. Mnangagwa sent the unit called CIO. That unit in Zimbabwe has been used to kill the Zimbabweans. Everybody who talk about ZANU, who talk about Mnangagwa, they get killed by this unit. Now this unit, he sent that to Botswana to join another unit called DIS to help in rigging, election rigging there. So now there's no way SADC people, there's nowhere to cry, because November is Namibia. ZANU PF is there also to Namibia, where I know in Namibia there's a problem of tribalism on 2 tribes, because other tribes in Namibia there's no problem. It's only problem of the Vamba people and the Herero people. The Herero people, they have their own region, which is Umaheke district, where there's only Herero people. The Vambas are from north. Now, there is no how a Swapo party of Namibia, ruling party, can win in Umaheke region, because there's a tribalism. They don't do nothing to Herero people. They only take all infrastructure to do it in Vamboland, where they are the owner or Swapo party. So now, when it comes to election announcement in Namibia, people, they've been paid money for electronic, for this one, for IEC, so that they can announce Swapo is win. Swapo, they never win election, Kathy.
Okay.
Let me tell you, Kathy, you know, in our region, it's only ANC who they don't play these games of rigging election. All other countries regionally, all these people call them liberation movement. They do election rigging. There's no help.
Okay, Lerotodi,
yeah.
we're going to have to leave it there. As you heard, Lerotodi then complaining or making allegations around the independence of some of the electoral commissions within the continent. And what SADC, of course, does when they also have observer missions during elections is that they look at those issues. The problem is that even where they have found things not being up to par it has not necessarily gone further than just what they've written on paper. And that's what is, unfortunately, it takes away from the strength of the democracy that we're able to build in the region. But yeah, really incredibly sad news around this human rights lawyer in Mozambique who was killed over the weekend. He, of course, had supported many opposition parties, and he had previously also taken the country's election commission to court and had won some of those cases that he was pursuing. As things stand, election votes in Mozambique are still being counted. So the election results have not yet been declared, which is why this killing then is so significant too. Naje, you're in Bloem. Good morning.
Good morning, Casey, and your listeners. Casey, what had happened in Shabelle last Thursday, really it is unacceptable. Before this issue of looting spread like a wildfire across the country, all municipalities should step in and without an eye-winking and engage with communities, business organizations, local entrepreneurs, and foreign entrepreneurs to have a meeting and come with a solution.
I agree with you, Naje, 100%. It is a ticking time bomb.
Sorry, Casey?
I'm saying that this issue is a ticking time bomb.
Yeah. So, President of Abashali Basim Jondolo, the decision is unnecessary. It is a wave of xenophobia, and it is better to coexist with Mzazi entrepreneurs because their strategy of doing business is a very brutally, and they buy their stuff in bulk.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, Naje.
Yeah, Katie.
Let's leave it there. Yeah, thanks for that view. And things can quickly turn, right? Naje's referencing the protest that we saw last week where members of the community stormed spaza shops. And you see, when you have thousands of people going into establishments, can be very difficult to contain. Bonakele, you're in Kailija. Good morning.
A very good morning. Hopefully I'm the last caller. Looking at the time.
I see what you're doing, Bonakele. I see what you're doing. Go for it.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm disappointed by the MK party that was invited by Mkhokeli Banda at Mhlabonene last night. And then he told listeners, these guys didn't pick up the calls. What do you do with someone you invite, he agreed to participate in a topic where, because it was going to talk about this GNU, Government of National Unity, and yet they didn't pick up calls. Well, you as Kathy, what do you do with such people who doesn't respect you?
Well, there's not much you can do, Bonakele, except to keep pushing for them to come on.
Are you still going to phone them to participate if they have not respected or honor whatever that they agreed to participate? Because even their followers or those who support them, they're probably interested to listen as to the story of them telling the nation as to why they don't support the GNU and yet pick up calls. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Look, and unfortunately, Bonakele, our